Welcome to a journey along Texas' most haunted rivers, where the flow of water carries with it whispers of the past and the lingering presence of spirits. From eerie sightings on foggy banks to unsettling legends of tragic deaths. Texas rivers are more than natural wonders, they are gateways to the paranormal. Join us as we explore 25 rivers across the Lone Star State that hold chilling secrets and stories that have endured for generations. The Rio Grande stretches across the arid landscapes of Texas, carving a path that has witnessed centuries of human struggle, migration, and sorrow. This mighty river, often celebrated for its natural beauty and importance as a lifeline in the region, holds a darker side, one whispered about in local legends, told around campfires, and experienced by those who walk its banks at night. For many, the Rio Grande is not just a river. It is a keeper of memories, a silent witness to tragedies that refuse to fade with time. Locals who live near the river speak cautiously of the strange occurrences that unfold when darkness falls. On quiet nights, when the wind rustles the sparse vegetation and the water moves with a hushed rhythm, some claim to see fleeting silhouettes along the shore. Figures appear and vanish with the current, often human-like in shape, yet impossibly ethereal. Travelers and fishermen alike have reported seeing small groups of shadowy figures moving through the reeds, pausing as though they are searching for something or someone. The sight is fleeting, yet it leaves a chilling imprint, as if the river itself is mourning for those lost to its waters. Many of the ghostly apparitions are believed to be the spirits of those who died attempting to cross the river in pursuit of a better life. The Rio Grande, while breathtakingly beautiful, can be treacherous, with unpredictable currents and hidden undercurrents that have claimed countless lives. Over the years, families have vanished, and individuals have been swept away, leaving only stories and whispers behind. Some locals claim that the spirits of these lost souls wander the riverbanks, retracing the paths they once took in life, unable to find peace. On moonless nights, witnesses say the figures sometimes emerge more clearly, their faces pale and eyes hollow, staring out across the water as if beckoning the living to remember them. Mists rising from the river are another phenomenon tied to its haunted reputation. At dawn or twilight, when temperatures shift and the water releases its steam, these mists can form eerie, almost human shapes. Locals tell stories of the vapor twisting into figures, reaching out from the water, forming hands, torsos, and indistinct faces before dissipating with the breeze. Some say the mists are manifestations of the river's memory, a living archive of those who have drowned, their essence lingering in the air and water. Others suggest that the shapes are warnings, a way the river communicates its danger to the unwary. Regardless of the explanation, encountering these mists is enough to drive even seasoned travelers to hasty retreats, their hearts racing and minds haunted long after they leave. The whispers along the river are perhaps the most unnerving of all. On particularly still nights, some claim to hear voices calling names in languages they cannot understand. The words are soft, sometimes mournful, sometimes urgent, drifting across the water as though carried on an invisible current. Locals often describe these sounds as voices from the past, echoes of those who once lived and died along the Rio Grande. Some who have ventured too close to the river at night report feeling a subtle touch on their shoulders or arms, as if the spirits are trying to guide them away or communicate a story lost to time. Others have recounted hearing full conversations, whispers overlapping, recounting lost dreams, fears, or regrets. The river, in these moments, seems alive, not merely water flowing across land, but a vessel for the restless memories of countless souls. Several specific sites along the Rio Grande have become particularly notorious for ghostly encounters. Abandoned border towns, old ferry crossings, and remote stretches of the riverbank are all cited as hotspots. At these locations, visitors report seeing more distinct apparitions, shadowy figures standing in the water as though waiting for someone to arrive, faint silhouettes wandering near dilapidated buildings, and, on rare occasions, full-bodied ghosts walking along the river's edge. The air around these sites often feels heavy and damp, carrying the chill of the river and the weight of history. Some claim that they can smell faint, almost imperceptible scents of smoke, earth, or wood decay, as if the river itself preserves fragments of past tragedies. Those who live near the Rio Grande often learn to respect its dual nature, the way it can sustain life while holding on to the memories of death. Fishermen, ranchers, and locals tell stories of sudden chills that appear without warning, of misty figures hovering over their boats, or of soft whispers that seem to respond when they speak aloud. Many of these experiences are shared quietly, in hushed tones, for fear of being dismissed as mere superstition. Yet the stories persist, generation after generation, suggesting that there is something more than coincidence at work. The river seems to absorb and hold the sorrow of the past, a constant presence beneath the surface of everyday life. The Rio Grande's haunting is not limited to its waters and mist. Those who camp near its banks or travel along its trails at night report a deep, unshakable feeling of being watched. Even in the most open stretches, where the river glimmers under the moonlight, a sense of unseen eyes following each step is common. Dogs and livestock sometimes react to unseen presences, barking or becoming uneasy without apparent cause. Some hikers speak of sudden gusts of wind that carry whispers with them, a cold touch on the back of the neck, or fleeting glimpses of movement in the corner of their vision. It is as if the river remembers all that has occurred along its banks, ensuring that the past is never truly forgotten. Despite its haunting presence, the Rio Grande remains a lifeline for communities along its path. Its waters irrigate crops, sustain wildlife, and provide recreation. Yet those who pay attention to the subtle signs, the misty figures, the whispered voices, the ghostly silhouettes know that beneath its surface lies a deeper history, one that has imprinted itself on the land and the living. The river continues to flow, carrying with it the stories of those who came before, an eternal reminder that some spirits cannot rest. The Brazos River, winding through the heart of Texas, is often called the father of Texas rivers, a lifeline that has nurtured settlements, agriculture, and commerce for centuries. Its waters are wide, slow-moving in places, and deceptively serene, hiding the tragedies and untold stories that have accumulated along its banks over generations. To locals and those who have spent time near its waters, the Brazos is more than a river. It is a keeper of secrets. For centuries, settlers, farmers, and travelers have relied on the Brazos, navigating its currents or setting up homesteads nearby. Yet, as the years passed, tales of eerie happenings began to emerge. Swimmers report sudden chills in the water, even on warm summer days, when the river seems to sap the warmth from their body. Anglers have described feeling sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature along certain stretches of the river, accompanied by an unsettling sense of being watched. At times, a fog will rise from the surface without warning, dense and impenetrable, as if the river itself is masking something from view. Within these ghostly mists, some claim to glimpse forms moving silently, fleeting glimpses that vanish before they can be fully comprehended. One of the most persistent legends along the Brazos River involves spectral barges drifting through the night. These ghostly vessels appear without warning, often seen from the banks under the dim glow of the moon. Witnesses describe them as eerily silent, cutting through the water without a ripple, carrying apparitions of settlers, laborers, or travelers who met untimely deaths along the river's path. Some claim the figures on board are frozen in time, dressed in clothing from centuries past, their faces pale and expressionless, staring blankly toward the shore. The barges glide slowly, sometimes passing directly beneath bridges or along familiar stretches of river, leaving those who witness them shaken and speechless. Locals have long speculated on the origins of these spectral vessels. Some believe they are a manifestation of the tragic history of the Brazos, a river that claimed countless lives through accidents, drownings, and illnesses. Early settlers navigating the water in wooden skiffs or flatboats faced unpredictable currents and hidden sandbars. During times of flood, entire families were sometimes swept away, their bodies never recovered. In these moments, the river seemed to collect their essence, the sorrow of lives cut short, lingering in the currents. The barges, some argue, are a physical representation of that collective grief, eternally carrying those lost souls along the river that took them. Beyond the spectral barges, the river itself seems to possess a consciousness, responding to the emotions of those who tread its banks. Fishermen tell of lines cast into the water, vanishing inexplicably, only to be returned with an unseen tug, as if something or someone is playing with them. Campers along the river often report the rustling of branches and sudden movements in the underbrush. Yet when they investigate, no animal or human is found. At night, the air becomes heavy and a silence oppressive, broken only by the occasional splash of water or the whisper of wind, which locals insist carries faint echoes of voices calling from the past. Some of the most chilling encounters involve those who camp overnight along the river. The figures often vanish when approached, leaving behind a lingering sense of cold and a sudden, inexplicable emptiness. In other cases, campers hear footsteps along the shoreline, matching their own movements, only to discover no one is there. Objects sometimes shift or disappear entirely, as if unseen hands are interacting with the living. Historical records lend credence to these tales. The Brazos River has long been a site of human tragedy. Settlers drowned while crossing during spring floods, and early towns along its banks were devastated by disease outbreaks. Laborers who worked to clear and navigate the river often perished, and the river's banks are rumored to hold unmarked graves of those who were forgotten by history. These tragedies are woven into the fabric of the river, lingering in the mist and reflected in the water, creating a spiritual residue that some believe gives rise to the sightings and strange occurrences reported even today. Visitors also speak of an unshakable sense of unease when walking the riverbanks at night. Even in the quietest stretches, there is the feeling of eyes upon them. The invisible gaze of those long gone. Dogs and other animals react with sudden alarm, barking or retreating for no apparent reason, and some hikers report the sensation of being brushed past or touched by an unseen hand. The river, it seems, has preserved not only the memories but also the emotions of the people who once lived and died alongside it. In addition to human ghosts, the river itself is said to take on a haunting presence. Swells and eddies appear without cause, as though an unseen force is moving beneath the surface. Mist curls over the water in unnatural patterns, forming shapes that resemble faces or limbs. Even in daylight, the river can feel different, heavier, watchful, alive with invisible histories. Locals advise caution, saying that the Brazos is a river that must be respected, not just for its natural power, but for the unseen presences it holds. Despite the fear and the strange phenomena, the Brazos River continues to sustain life, both human and animal. It irrigates fields, supports fisheries, and provides recreation. Yet for those who have witnessed the spectral barges, heard the whispers in the fog, the Brazos is a living archive of lives lived, struggles endured, and spirits that have never fully departed. The Colorado River, winding through the heart of Texas, has long been more than just a source of life for the region. Its waters, wide and ever-shifting, have carried generations of travelers, settlers, and pioneers, many of whom never reached their destinations. Over time, the river has become a silent witness to both human triumphs and tragedies. Today, it is a place where beauty and danger intertwine, and where stories of the supernatural have taken root, whispered along its banks and echoed across the water. Locals often speak of certain bends in the river where the air seems different, heavier, almost charged with unseen energy. These areas are where the legends of shadowy figures are most prevalent. Witnesses have reported seeing indistinct forms standing motionless in the water, their shapes dark against the shimmering surface. They appear at twilight or under the veil of night, and those who encounter them describe an unshakable feeling of being watched. The figures do not move or react to human presence, but their silent gazes are said to follow anyone who passes by, leaving a lingering sense of unease long after they vanish. The stories often trace back to the pioneers and travelers who navigated the Colorado River in earlier centuries. Many journeys were treacherous, with swift currents, hidden sandbars, and sudden floods claiming the lives of those attempting to cross. Some were caught during unexpected storms, their boats capsizing before help could arrive. The river has long held a reputation for unpredictability, and with it came a multitude of drownings and disappearances. Locals suggest that the spirits of these lost souls may linger, tied forever to the waters that carried them to their untimely ends. Alongside the shadowy figures, there are tales of ghostly music that seems to drift across the water late at night. Old riverboats once plied the Colorado, carrying passengers, cargo, and sometimes live entertainment, even decades after the boats ceased operation. Some claim to hear the faint strains of piano and violin, mingled with the murmur of voices from another era. The music is described as ethereal, almost as if the river itself is replaying memories of a time long past. It appears at random, sometimes so faint it is barely audible, other times clearly echoing across the banks, impossible to locate the source. Those who hear it often report a chill in the air, a feeling that the river is more than just water flowing, yet is a conduit for the past, a channel for lingering souls. Swimmers and boaters along the Colorado sometimes recount sudden changes in the water. Calm stretches can become unnaturally cold without warning, and fog can rise in thick, curling banks that obscure the far shore. Within this fog, some have glimpsed fleeting shapes, perhaps glimpses of those who perished or of travelers from another century. It is said that the river reacts to human presence in subtle ways, guiding or warning those who venture too close to the places where tragedy occurred. A sudden tug on a fishing line, a splash where nothing has fallen, or the whisper of footsteps on the shore are all part of the eerie encounters that have become associated with the river. Campers who spend nights along the Colorado River report the most chilling experiences. Shadows seem to move with intent, and lights, perhaps lanterns from long-gone riverboats, appear and vanish. Some claim to have seen figures emerging from the water, walking along the banks before fading into mist. Others awaken to the sensation of being touched by unseen hands or hear names whispered from the darkness. These experiences, while subjective, share common elements that have cemented the Colorado River's reputation as a site of paranormal activity. Historical records support some of the lore. Early settlers documented numerous drownings and river-related accidents, while travelers wrote of strange lights and sensations along certain bends. Accounts of river spirits were part of local oral tradition, long before modern ghost hunters began investigating the sites. In many ways, the river has become a repository of memory, a living archive of human experience, marked by both joy and sorrow, triumph and tragedy. The most haunting aspect of the Colorado River may be its unpredictability. Just as it once claimed lives in sudden floods or hidden currents, it continues to harbor unseen forces. Witnesses often describe an overwhelming sense of presence, an invisible audience to their passage. Some researchers and paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the river itself, shaped by centuries of human life and death, has absorbed residual energies, creating a spiritual echo that manifests as figures, sounds, and sensations along its banks. The river does not discriminate. It preserves both the happy and the tragic, replaying fragments of the past for those sensitive enough to perceive them. Even during the day, there is a subtle weight to the Colorado River, a quiet tension beneath its surface. Visitors often describe feeling watched as they walk along its banks, a low hum of awareness in the water and air. Swimmers sometimes sense currents tugging at them unexpectedly, and boaters report strange reflections on the surface that do not align with reality. At night, the river seems to awaken fully, the combination of shadow, mist, and sound creating an otherworldly atmosphere. It is here that the shadowy figures are most likely to appear, lingering along bends where history has left the deepest scars. The Colorado River is not merely a geographical feature, it's a living testament to the lives it has touched. From the pioneers who crossed it with hope in their hearts, to the settlers and travelers who perished along its banks, the river is steeped in human experience. The shadowy figures, ghostly music, sudden chills, and unexplained mists serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. The river preserves memory and grief, silently reminding those who traverse its waters of the souls it has claimed. The San Antonio River, winding through the heart of Texas, is often celebrated for its vibrant river walk, a hub of restaurants, shops, and nightlife. During the day, the river sparkles under the sun, and tourists flock to its banks to enjoy the bustling atmosphere. But as the night falls and the crowds thin, the river transforms into something far more mysterious and unsettling. Beneath the twinkling lights and the soft reflections on the water lies a darker history, one marked by conflict, loss, and lingering spirits that some claim still haunt the Riverwalk and its quieter stretches. Visitors strolling along the river after dark often report sensations that are difficult to explain. Many speak of the sudden feeling of unseen hands brushing past them, as though someone or something is walking just behind or beside them. Others have heard disembodied laughter, echoing eerily off the calm waters and the stone embankments. The sounds are light and fleeting, almost like the echoes of children playing, yet they carry a strange, mournful quality that hints at something far older and darker. Local legends trace these ghostly occurrences back to the earliest days of San Antonio. Spanish settlers arrived in the region centuries ago, establishing missions and communities along the riverbanks. These settlers faced hardship, disease, and occasional skirmishes with rival factions and native tribes. Many lost their lives near the river, either in battle, from accidents, or due to illness. And it is believed that some of their spirits never left. Instead, they linger along the water's edge, trapped in the moments of fear, confusion, and sorrow that mark their final hours. One of the most persistent tales tells of a group of settlers caught in a sudden flood along a bend in the river. As the waters rose, screams were reportedly carried over the trees and into the night sky. Witnesses in later years claimed to see shadowy figures moving through the mist, silhouettes that vanished when approached. Some describe seeing faint lights bobbing across the water, as though lanterns held by those long gone were still searching for a safe path. Others have felt cold gusts or sudden chills as they walked past certain spots, inexplicably aware of a presence that cannot be seen. The Riverwalk itself, while lively and modern, is not immune to these tales. Maintenance workers and late-night security personnel often recount experiences of hearing footsteps in areas that appear empty or catching glimpses of figures in period clothing, long coats, wide-brimmed hats, and other attire reminiscent of the Spanish colonial era. Some have reported seeing reflections in the water that do not match their own movements, fleeting images of faces or figures that vanish before a second look. Even street performers and bartenders on the Riverwalk have shared stories of cold spots or sudden whispers that seem to come from nowhere, the voices indistinct but clearly human in nature. The river itself seems to hold memories. Those who take evening boat rides have claimed that certain stretches are unnaturally quiet, the water moving with an eerie stillness. The usual sounds of wildlife fade, replaced by the faint murmurs of conversation or the soft slap of water against an unseen hull. On some nights, a light mist rises from the river, curling along the banks and across bridges, creating an almost spectral atmosphere. Within the fog, some have glimpsed shapes, figures moving in silence, as though drifting between worlds, watching the modern world continue around them while they remain bound to the past. Paranormal investigators have taken an interest in the San Antonio River for decades. Some of the clearest reports come from the narrow channels near historical landmarks, where the echoes of Spanish architecture and old stone walls seem to amplify the spectral activity. Investigators often describe the river as a place where history is tangible, where the trauma of centuries past leaves a lasting imprint on the land and water. The stories also extend to the flora and fauna along the river. Some locals warn of seeing reflections in the water that mimic human forms, even in spots where no one stands. Others report birds behaving oddly, circling in patterns or remaining unusually still near areas of intense activity. These subtle signs have reinforced the sense that the river is a living conduit for energies beyond the natural world, a place where the boundary between the past and present is thinner than elsewhere. Even casual visitors cannot escape the allure of the river's darker side. Photographers sometimes capture orbs or faint silhouettes in long exposure shots, while joggers report the sensation of being followed along quiet pathways. Kayakers and boaters who travel after dark speak of sudden cold currents, unexpected fog, and the unmistakable feeling of eyes watching them from the riverbanks. Those who encounter these phenomena often describe a mixture of fear and awe, a recognition that the river holds stories far older and more profound than its modern vibrancy suggests. The San Antonio River, flowing for centuries through the heart of Texas, is a place of beauty and mystery. Its waters have witnessed joy, commerce, and community, but also hardship, tragedy, and death. The spirits that some claim linger along its banks are reminders of the lives once lived, the struggles endured, and the unresolved moments that continue to echo through time. From ghostly laughter to fleeting touches, from shadowy figures to spectral lights on the water, the river offers a glimpse into a world that exists alongside our own, where the past has not entirely released its hold. The Trinity River, weaving its way through the heart of North Texas, has been a lifeline for the region for centuries. Its waters sustain wildlife, provide a source of recreation, and have shaped communities along its banks. Yet beneath its placid surface lies a history filled with tragedy, accidents, and untimely deaths, events that some believe have left a lingering presence along the river. From foggy mornings to quiet nights, the Trinity River has earned a reputation for paranormal activity, drawing curiosity seekers and haunted enthusiasts alike. Locals have long told stories of the river claiming lives, whether through drowning, floods, or accidents on its treacherous banks. Many of these tragedies occurred near old crossings or abandoned bridges, where the currents ran swift and unpredictable. It is in these areas that hunters, hikers, and night travelers most often report strange experiences. Some speak of sudden drops in temperature, a chilling wind that seems to pass through the very bones, even on warm days. Others describe the sensation of being watched, the feeling that unseen eyes are tracking their movements as they approach the river's edge. The most common reports come from foggy mornings, when the river appears to exhale a ghostly mist. Out of the haze, figures are said to emerge, humanoid shapes that drift along the water, sometimes appearing to stumble or reach out as if struggling against invisible currents. Many who have encountered these apparitions describe them as translucent, with indistinct features, yet unmistakably human. Witnesses often report hearing whispers, voices that seem to call out names or cry for help, fading as quickly as they arrive. Some insist these are the spirits of those who perished in the river, unable to find peace and eternally tied to the water. Abandoned bridges over the Trinity River are particularly noted for their eerie atmosphere. Long unused by modern traffic, these structures creak and groan in the wind, their rotting boards and rusting supports creating a naturally haunting environment. Yet it is not just the physical decay that unnerves visitors. People crossing these bridges at night, or even in early dawn, report hearing footsteps that echo behind them, despite being alone. Some have seen fleeting shadows dart across the planks, or glimpsed figures standing silently in the mist, disappearing when approached. The sensation of being followed or observed is almost universal in these areas, as if the river itself remembers the lives it has claimed. Hunters and hikers along the Trinity's banks tell similar tales. While walking through dense brush or along narrow trails, they report hearing whispers just beyond earshot, the voices rising and falling as if carried by the current. Some describe sudden gusts of icy wind that move against the natural direction of the breeze, chilling them to the bone. Others speak of seeing objects move inexplicably, fallen branches shifting, small rocks rolling, or the rippling of the water without wind or wildlife disturbance. These subtle, unsettling phenomena suggest a presence just beyond perception, a consciousness tied to the river's dark history. Several locations along the Trinity are tied to particularly tragic stories. One abandoned ford, once used by early settlers to cross the river, is said to be haunted by a family that drowned when the waters rose unexpectedly. Witnesses recount seeing a mother holding a child, standing in the middle of the water, only for the figures to dissolve into mist when approached. Nearby, a collapsed bridge has become another focal point for paranormal activity. People report hearing metal groan and would snap beneath their feet, though the structure is clearly unsafe and untouched. Shadows appear to move along the beams, sometimes resembling figures in period clothing, a reminder of the river's long history. Paranormal investigators have explored the Trinity River for decades, particularly at sites with repeated reports of haunting. Using infrared cameras, audio recording devices, and electromagnetic field detectors, they have captured unexplained phenomena. Voices have been recorded on playback, faint and often indistinct, yet clearly human. Temperature fluctuations are common, with sudden cold spots appearing in otherwise mild weather. Infrared imaging occasionally captures figures that seem to move independently of any known person or animal. While skeptics argue these could be illusions or misinterpretations, many agree that the river holds an unusual, persistent energy that cannot easily be dismissed. The wildlife along the Trinity sometimes seems affected by this energy. Birds may circle in unusual patterns or take flight suddenly, while deer or other animals appear to freeze and watch the river, unbothered by human presence. Some hunters describe these behaviors as unnerving, a reminder that the river is not just a natural environment, but a place where the boundary between the living and the dead may be thinner than elsewhere. For those who traverse the Trinity River alone at night, the experiences are often deeply unsettling. The combination of dense fog, silent water, and abandoned crossings creates an atmosphere of isolation and suspense. Whispers, fleeting figures, sudden chills, and the sensation of being followed are commonly reported. Even during the day, the river's calm surface can appear deceptive, hiding currents in areas where accidents long ago claimed lives. The stories passed down from generation to generation reinforce a collective memory of danger and mystery that still lingers along the banks. The Trinity River serves as both a source of life and a repository of sorrow. Its waters carry the stories of those who have fallen, of tragedies that remain etched into the land and the water itself. Hunters, hikers, and curious explorers may experience these stories firsthand, feeling cold spots, hearing whispers, or glimpsing ghostly figures among the mist. The river's long history ensures that its energy is complex, a blend of natural beauty and spectral echoes. The Neches River in eastern Texas winds its way through dense forests, rolling hills, and quiet wetlands. Its waters have supported life for centuries, providing sustenance, transportation, and beauty to the region. Yet beneath its tranquil surface and serene banks lies a history of upheaval, loss, and displacement. In the 19th century, Native American tribes were forcibly removed from the area. Their lives are brooded in a tragic chapter of Texas history. Some believe that the spirits of those who were displaced have never truly left the river, lingering along its banks and in its waters, bound by memories of loss and sorrow. Campers who set up tents along the Neches often speak of feeling watched as the sun dips below the horizon. In the quiet of the night, the natural sounds of frogs, owls, and rustling leaves are sometimes joined by more mysterious noises. Drums, faint but distinct, can be heard echoing across the water, followed by the low hum of chants that seem to come from nowhere. Those unfamiliar with the river might dismiss these sounds as distant wildlife or the wind in the trees. Yet the intensity and rhythm of the noises suggest something far more intentional. Kayakers and fishermen have also reported strange occurrences. Paddling along calm stretches of the river, they sometimes notice fog rising in patches that seem to take human-like shapes. Translucent figures appear along the riverbank, performing what seem to be ceremonial movements, drumming, or gestures of worship. Witnesses describe the figures as faint, almost shimmering in the dim light, but unmistakably human. Many who have seen them report a simultaneous feeling of awe and unease, as if stepping into a moment frozen in time. One kayaker, who requested anonymity, recalled the night when the river was unusually still. A thin mist hovered over the water, and the moonlight reflected off its surface like a mirror. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw figures along the banks, moving in unison, as though part of an ancient ritual. He could hear rhythmic drum beats and chanting, though no instruments or people were visible. Terrified, yet entranced, he floated quietly, feeling as though the river itself was alive with memory. When he returned the next morning, the river appeared ordinary again, leaving him questioning whether what he saw was real or a manifestation of the land's deep history. Some have woken to the sound of drums and chants just outside their tents, only to find no one there when they investigate. Others report sudden chills, shadows moving through the trees, and a sense of presence that does not respond to human attention. Those who attempt to document these occurrences with cameras or recorders often find that their devices fail or capture only faint, indistinct shapes and sounds. Historians suggest that the Neches River was once home to vibrant communities of Caddo and other Native American tribes. These tribes relied on the river for fishing, trade, and spiritual practices. When settlers and government forces displaced these communities in the 1800s, countless lives were uprooted, and many were lost during forced relocations. The river, once a source of life and sustenance, became a silent witness to suffering, grief, and displacement. Some believe that the spiritual energy left behind continues to manifest as drumming, chanting, and spectral figures, echoing the rituals and ceremonies of a people long gone. Several stretches of the river are particularly noted for paranormal activity. Near old settlement sites, witnesses report seeing ghostly figures performing dances or rituals along the banks, sometimes disappearing into the water without a trace. Trees along these areas often appear twisted or contorted, and the ground seems to carry a weight that is hard to explain. Visitors have described the sensation of walking through an invisible barrier, where the air grows heavy, cold, and charged with energy. Even experienced outdoors enthusiasts are left feeling unsettled when passing through these locations, sensing that the river remembers what transpired there long ago. Nighttime seems to amplify the river's strange qualities. The rhythmic drumming that many report is not constant, but appears and disappears, as if the spirits themselves choose when to be seen or heard. Some kayakers have attempted to follow the sound, only to find it fading as they approach. Campers who wake to chanting often find that the sounds vanish by dawn, leaving only the gentle ripple of water and the rustle of leaves. The intermittent nature of these phenomena contributes to the sense that the river is alive, actively communicating the memories of the past. Despite the unsettling stories, the Neches River continues to draw visitors. Many come for recreation, enjoying its waters for boating, fishing, and swimming. Yet, for those who venture with an open mind and a willingness to experience the unknown, the river offers a glimpse into a world beyond the ordinary. The combination of natural beauty, historical tragedy, and lingering spiritual energy creates a unique environment where the living and the past seem to coexist. The Neches River remains a place where history flows as tangibly as water. Its currents carry memories of those who once called it home, and its mist and fog serve as a veil between the present and echoes of the past. Those who hear the drums, see the figures, or feel the invisible presence are witnesses to a river that refuses to let its stories be forgotten. The spirits of displaced tribes may walk the banks, performing rituals that honor a life taken too soon, reminding all who encounter them that the Neches River is more than a river. It is a living archive of sorrow, resilience, and lingering spirits. The Guadalupe River, winding gracefully through the heart of Texas, is renowned for its clear waters, verdant banks, and idyllic scenery. During the day, it attracts families, kayakers, and anglers who come to enjoy its serene beauty. Yet, beneath its picturesque surface, the river conceals a darker, more mysterious side. Tales have persisted for generations of ghostly figures wandering along its banks, and visitors often report strange and unsettling experiences, particularly on stormy nights when the river swells and the wind carries eerie sounds through the trees. Locals speak of hearing the plaintive cries of women near the river during thunderstorms. These mournful wails, often described as distant and ethereal, seem to rise from the water itself, blending with the roar of the wind and the drum of rainfall. Some believe these are the spirits of women who lost their lives in the river's past, victims of accidents or tragedy that befell settlers and traders navigating its waters centuries ago. The cries are not constant, but appear at unpredictable intervals, leaving witnesses with an unsettling sense of both sorrow and urgency, as if the voices are still searching for something or someone they cannot find. Stories suggest that in the 18th and 19th centuries, the Guadalupe River was a vital waterway for settlers, traders, and early communities. Canoes and small trading vessels navigated its twists and turns, transporting goods and people across the rugged Texas landscape. Not all who traveled the river returned safely. Sudden storms and treacherous currents claimed lives, leaving behind grief-stricken families and communities haunted by unanswered questions. Some legends speak of shipwrecked traders whose spirits are said to drift along the river, their eyes searching endlessly for lost companions. These apparitions are often seen at dusk or under heavy fog, appearing as fleeting shadows that vanish when approached. Kayakers who traverse the river at twilight sometimes report sensations that cannot be explained by the natural world. Cold patches of air descend upon them without warning, and a feeling of being watched pervades the quiet moments between bends. Some have glimpsed figures standing along the riverbank, shrouded in mist, motionless and silent. When approached, these figures often dissipate, like vapor, leaving only the rustle of leaves or the faint sound of footsteps. In one account, a small group of friends paddled near a particularly secluded stretch during an overcast evening. They claimed to hear distant footsteps along the shore, accompanied by whispers of names they did not recognize. Moments later, their paddles struck empty water, and the voices faded, as if the river itself had swallowed the sounds. Campers near the Guadalupe River have reported similar experiences. Tents pitched close to the water's edge are sometimes disturbed by unexplainable forces. Belongings shift overnight, and faint imprints of footprints appear in the sand with no visible source. On particularly stormy nights, the cries of women grow louder, echoing across the river's surface and blending with the patter of rain. Some campers have awakened to the sight of a pale figure standing at the water's edge, staring silently at the darkness. Those who have encountered such apparitions describe an overwhelming sense of sadness and longing, as if the spirit is eternally searching for something just out of reach. In addition to auditory and visual phenomena, the Guadalupe River is linked to the energy of lost settlements and forgotten tragedies. Archaeologists and historians note that the riverbanks were once home to small communities of settlers and traders who faced harsh conditions and frequent danger. Floods, illness, and accidents claimed many lives, and some believe that the energy of these events still lingers in the natural environment. Paranormal investigators exploring the river have reported cold spots, sudden shifts in temperature, and unexplained mist formations that seem to take the shape of human figures. Recording devices occasionally capture faint whispers and low cries that are otherwise inaudible to the human ear. Certain areas of the river are particularly noted for activity. Old crossing points and abandoned mills are frequently cited as locations where apparitions appear. Visitors to these areas often report a sensation of being observed, even when alone. Fog or mist tends to cling more heavily along these stretches, lending an eerie atmosphere to the surroundings. Some who attempt to photograph the figures find that their cameras capture only faint outlines or blurs, reinforcing the impression that the river and its spirits exist just beyond the reach of the ordinary world. While many of the stories surrounding the Guadalupe River evoke fear, others convey a sense of melancholy beauty. The spirits of those lost seem to linger, not in anger, but in longing, searching for loved ones, trying to complete unfinished journeys, or simply existing in the space between the living and the dead. Visitors who approach the river with respect and curiosity often report an inexplicable feeling of connection to the past, a sense that the river itself carries memory along its flowing waters. Local legends continue to grow as each generation encounters the river's mysteries. Parents tell children about the cries of women during storms, warning them to stay close and respect the river. Anglers and paddlers pass along tales of shadowy figures and ghostly voices, ensuring that the stories endure alongside the natural rhythms of the Guadalupe's current. Even as the river provides recreation and scenic beauty, it remains a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural intertwine. The Guadalupe River, with its tranquil beauty and hidden darkness, serves as a reminder that the past never truly disappears. Its waters carry both life and memory, and the spirits who linger along its banks bear witness to centuries of joy, loss, and longing. For those willing to explore its mysteries, the river offers more than just a scenic escape, provides a glimpse into a world where the living and the dead coexist, where cries echo in the night, and where the lost and wandering continue their eternal search along the flowing waters of Texas. The Red River, winding along the Texas-Oklahoma border, has long been a witness to both history and tragedy. Its muddy waters, flanked by steep banks and dense woods, hold stories of centuries past, tales of conflict, survival, and loss. While the river today is a peaceful boundary offering fishing spots and scenic vistas, those familiar with its history know there is another layer hidden beneath its flowing currents, the realm of the paranormal, where spirits of the past are said to roam. Locals tell of seeing ghostly cavalry riders along the riverbanks, particularly on misty mornings or during the quiet hours just before dawn. These apparitions appear dressed in uniforms of long-forgotten soldiers, their horses moving silently as if the earth beneath them had no sound. Witnesses claim the figures are often fleeting, vanishing into the fog when approached. Some describe seeing the glint of sunlight on spectral weapons or hearing the faint clatter of hooves on river stones, only to find the area empty moments later. The sightings are not merely legends. Generations of people living near the Red River have shared consistent accounts of these ghostly soldiers, passed down as warnings and stories of the river's haunted past. The Red River was once the site of numerous clashes, particularly during the westward expansion of the United States. Battles and skirmishes between settlers, Native American tribes, and later military forces left behind a landscape marked by conflict and bloodshed. Those who fell along its banks, often far from home, are said to have left behind lingering energies, bound to the river, where their lives ended abruptly. Fishermen and campers along the river sometimes report sudden chills or a feeling of being watched, even on the calmest days. These experiences often intensify near historic crossing points or isolated bends, areas long associated with struggle and confrontation. Paranormal accounts along the Red River go beyond mere apparitions. Locals and river visitors have described sudden fogs that appear without warning, enveloping the banks and obscuring the river's path. Within these mists, strange shapes are said to emerge, shadowy figures moving against the current, faint lights flickering where no lanterns have been placed. Some even report hearing whispers of commands and orders, as though the spirits of fallen officers are still directing troops, repeating rituals frozen in time. The sounds are often described as distant, yet eerily close, creating an unsettling sense of presence without a visible source. One particularly chilling story involves a group of kayakers traveling the Red River near an old battleground. As they rounded a bend, shrouded in early morning fog, they reported seeing mounted soldiers on the riverbank, their figures illuminated faintly by the rising sun. The riders were motionless, staring directly at the kayakers. Moments later, the figures vanished, leaving only the echo of hooves in their minds. Though no physical evidence remained, the kayakers described a sense of unease that persisted long after they had left the river, an impression that something from the past had reached into the present. In addition to ghostly cavalry, some believe the murky waters themselves conceal restless spirits. Fishermen sometimes report feeling unseen hands tug at their lines or hearing distant cries echoing from the depths. Others have claimed to glimpse shapes beneath the water, moving with intent and purpose, though the river appears calm on the surface. These experiences are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature, cold drafts that sweep across the riverbank, or the inexplicable appearance of objects floating briefly before sinking again. Such occurrences reinforce the idea that the Red River is more than a boundary between two states. It is a threshold between the living and the dead, a place where history and the supernatural intermingle. Campers and hikers along the Red River frequently share stories of shadowy figures standing among the trees, watching silently, only to disappear when approached. Footsteps are often reported along sandy banks when no one is present, and some say they have seen tents disturbed or belongings shifted mysteriously overnight. On moonless nights, travelers claim to hear the faint sound of battle-muffled gunfire, shouted orders, and the distant cries of the wounded as if the river itself replays echoes of its violent history. Despite these eerie tales, the Red River continues to attract people seeking adventure and natural beauty. Yet for those who pay attention to its history and the stories of locals, there is an undeniable sense of something lingering just beyond the ordinary. The river serves as a reminder that the events of the past do not simply fade away. They leave imprints on the land and water, echoes that persist for those sensitive enough to perceive them. Some historians and folklorists suggest that the spirits along the Red River are not malevolent but are caught between worlds, replaying moments of duty, fear, and sacrifice. Whether they are native warriors, settlers, or soldiers from later conflicts, their presence speaks to the deep human connections tied to the river. Visitors are advised to show respect, not only for the natural beauty, but for the unseen forces that may still roam the banks and waters. The Red River, flowing steadily along the Texas-Oklahoma border, is both a place of serene beauty and quiet terror. Its waters and banks are etched with history, carrying the memories of countless lives lost and events long past. The ghostly cavalry and submerged spirits that some claim to witness serve as reminders that tragedy, courage, and loss are never truly forgotten. Those who wander along the river may leave with more than a story of a day spent on the water. They may carry an experience of the past, reaching forward a fleeting glimpse of history and the supernatural intertwined in the mists above the Red River. The Sabine River, forming a natural border between Texas and Louisiana, is a winding waterway of moss-draped trees, quiet bends, and hidden swampy stretches. By day, it offers a serene landscape of glistening waters and rustling foliage, drawing fishermen, kayakers, and nature lovers to its banks. But as dusk falls and mist begins to rise off the river, a different story emerges, a story of shadows, lost souls, and whispered legends that have haunted the Sabine for generations. Local fishermen are often the first to share encounters with the river's eerie side. They speak of phantom canoes gliding silently across the water, often appearing when the morning fog is heaviest or the night is moonless. These spectral vessels are said to have no occupants, yet those who have seen them report an uncanny sensation of being observed. Some claim that, as they follow the canoes in their own boats, the ghostly crafts vanish into the mist, leaving only ripples behind. The phenomenon is so consistent that many longtime rivergoers swear it is more than imagination, a lingering trace of those who once traveled the Sabine for work or survival, now bound to its waters in death. The history of the Sabine River is one of both commerce and hardship. In the 18th and 19th centuries, loggers and traders navigated its winding path, moving timber and goods between settlements. The river, however, could be treacherous. Sudden storms, shifting currents, and hidden snags claimed lives, and those who perished were often lost to the murky depths. Locals claim that the cries of these long-lost workers can still be heard, echoing through the swampy areas along the banks. Some describe distant, anguished wails carried on the wind, while others insist that the voices call out names or issue faint warnings, as though the dead are trying to communicate with the living. Swampy stretches of the river, with thick cypress trees and tangled roots, are especially known for strange phenomena. Hikers and campers report fleeting shadows moving among the trees, disappearing when approached. Occasionally, a sudden cold draft will descend, even on the hottest summer day, leaving those in the area shivering without cause. Some have seen shapes emerging from the water, dark silhouettes of men in old work clothes, or fishermen of another era standing at the edge of the river before vanishing into the mist. These apparitions are generally non-threatening, but instill a deep sense of unease, as if the past has seeped into the present, replaying its stories for those willing to witness them. One tale told by generations of Sabine River fishermen involves a lone phantom canoe carrying an unseen figure. The story goes that a logger named Samuel, who drowned in a sudden storm while transporting timber, never found peace. His spirit is said to appear at night, paddling a ghostly canoe along the river. Witnesses claim that the water around the canoe glows faintly in the moonlight, as though the river itself is acknowledging his presence. Those who have followed the spectral craft report hearing the creak of old oars and a low, mournful hum. Yet when they arrive where the figure should be, nothing remains but mist and rippling water. Other accounts focus on the cries and whispers in the swamps. Campers who have spent the night along the river recount hearing voices calling out from the darkness, often in languages or dialects long forgotten. Some insist that the calls come from men who perished during logging accidents, while others believe the voices belong to traders who met tragic ends while navigating the river in treacherous conditions. Whatever the source, the sounds are unsettlingly real, echoing off the trees and water in ways that cannot be explained by wind or wildlife. Even those traveling the Sabine during daylight have reported strange experiences. Swimmers sometimes feel the sensation of being watched, and kayakers have described seeing shadows just beneath the water's surface, moving in tandem with them before vanishing. The river's calm appearance hides these occurrences, giving the impression that its tranquil beauty is only a mask for the restless spirits that haunt its course. Locals warn visitors to respect the river and its history, noting that ignoring the tales can result in encounters that linger in memory long after leaving the banks. The Sabine River's haunted reputation is not limited to visual or auditory phenomena. Some fishermen and campers report sudden equipment malfunctions, as though unseen hands are at work. Rods, lines, and nets have been known to tangle inexplicably, and flashlights sometimes flicker or die when exploring particularly remote areas. While skeptics often attribute these incidents to natural causes, those who have experienced them describe a palpable sense of presence and unseen watcher, observing from the shadows of trees or mist over the water. In addition to spectral canoes and phantom voices, some locals report glimpsing ghostly figures moving along the riverbanks at night. They often appear dressed in old-fashioned work clothes, carrying tools or lanterns, performing tasks as if they were still alive. These figures vanish when approached, leaving only the faintest traces of footprints in the soft river mud or ripples in the water. It is as if the river preserves these moments of history, replaying them for those who dare to witness the past. Despite its eerie reputation, the Sabine River remains a popular destination for recreation, drawing anglers, kayakers, and campers from across the region. Yet those familiar with its haunted tales know to tread carefully, especially after dark or in areas where the mist rises thick from the water. The river-esque combination of natural beauty and spectral mystery creates a unique atmosphere, one where history and the supernatural seem intertwined, and the stories of those who have perished continue to flow alongside the living. The Pecos River winds like a scar through the arid lands of West Texas, its waters glinting faintly under the desert moon. Once a vital lifeline for settlers and drifters crossing the unforgiving terrain, it became a silent witness to countless stories of greed, survival, and death. In the days of the Old West, its banks served as hiding places for bandits, gunmen, and fugitives. Today, long after the frontier has faded into history, locals still claim the river has never forgotten the blood spilled along its shores. Travelers who drive the lonely stretches near the Pecos at night often describe an eerie sense of being followed. The desert seems to come alive, coyotes fall silent, the wind stills, and the faint rhythm of galloping hooves drifts from nowhere. Some say it's the echo of horses long dead, still charging through the ghostly trails where their riders once fled from the law. There are stories passed down through generations about phantom gunfights erupting along the riverbank. When they rush to investigate, they find nothing, only the steady rush of the river and the cold whisper of the wind. One rancher swore he saw two men standing knee-deep in the water, pistols drawn, their outlines glowing faintly white. The figures exchanged gunfire for several seconds before both collapsed, vanishing into mist as ripples spread across the surface. The river's haunted reputation stretches back to the 1800s, when lawlessness ruled the Texas frontier. The Pecos served as both refuge and grave for many outlaws men alike. John Wesley Hardin and Clay Allison were rumored to have used the surrounding canyons to hide from Texas Rangers. The region's violence and isolation bred fear, and locals began to believe the land itself absorbed the turmoil. Even after the outlaws were gone, strange lights were said to appear over the water, drifting like lanterns before plunging beneath the surface. Some said they were the souls of bandits, searching for gold, buried and forgotten. Others insisted they were warning spirits, guarding the spots where bodies still lay unmarked in shallow graves. Night travelers crossing the Pecos Bridge often recount the same unnerving experience, a flicker of motion in the corner of their vision, the silhouette of a rider keeping pace beside their vehicle, vanishing as soon as they look. Truck drivers describe hearing a gunshot echo through the canyon below, though no one else is around for miles. Hikers report cold spots near the old river crossings, sudden drops in temperature so sharp that breath hangs in the air even on summer nights. The feeling of being watched never quite leaves. Some claim the river carries the echoes of its past through sound. When the wind blows just right, you can hear laughter rough and ragged, the kind belonging to drunken cowhands around the campfire, or the distant jangle of spurs against rock. There are tales of horses seen tethered along the bank, saddled but riderless, their reins swaying gently in the night air. When approached, they dissolve like smoke. The shadows on the Pecos are especially unnerving. They move across the sand and stone as though alive, gliding without source or sound. Campers have watched them drift between the mesquite trees and vanish into the darkness. One local man who grew up near the river claimed that as a boy he saw an entire posse materialize on the opposite. Shoremen and dusters, armed and mounted. He waved, thinking they were real, but the figures turned toward him in silence, their faces pale and hollow, before fading into thin air. Modern visitors sometimes dismiss the stories as tricks of the desert light, but even skeptics admit there's something different about the Pecos after dark. Its surface reflects the moon in broken fragments, as if the water itself remembers every violent act committed nearby. Many who camp by the river wake in the night to the distant sound of gunfire, sometimes followed by the faint neigh of horses or the cry of a dying man carried on the wind. The Brazos River near Possum Kingdom Lake has long been a place of natural beauty, with its calm waters and rugged cliffs drawing visitors for recreation and relaxation. By day, the river reflects the warm sunlight, its surface dotted with boats, kayaks, and swimmers enjoying the water. Yet, as night falls, the same waters take on an eerie quality, and locals and travelers alike speak in hushed tones about the strange occurrences that have earned this stretch of the Brazos a reputation for hauntings. Boaters who venture out after dark often report seeing ghostly lights hovering just above the surface of the lake. These lights are unlike any modern illumination. There is no source, no motorboat or lantern explaining their presence. They float, shimmer, and sometimes dart suddenly across the water, leaving those who witness them questioning what they have seen. Many describe the lights as faintly bluish or white, giving off an otherworldly glow that casts shadows on the waves below. At times, the lights seem to move in deliberate patterns, as if guiding or warning, while at other moments, they vanish entirely, leaving the water pitch black and the witnesses unnerved. Divers and fishermen near Possum Kingdom Lake have shared tales of shadowy figures emerging from the depths of the water. These apparitions are rarely seen in full. Often, only fleeting glimpses of a silhouette or a movement in the corner of the eye are reported. Some describe the figures as humanoid, rising slowly from the lake before dissolving into mist or darkness. Others speak of faint whispers carried across the water, soft and almost incomprehensible, yet undeniably human in tone. Those who have experienced these phenomena claim that the figures are not malevolent in intent, but their sudden appearances and disappearances leave a lingering sense of unease. Local legend suggests that the hauntings are linked to the area's history. Possum Kingdom Lake and the surrounding Brazos River region have seen their share of tragedy over the years. Accidents, drownings, and unexplained disappearances have occurred, and many believe that the spirits of those lost still linger near the waters, unable to move on. Some stories recount early settlers who perished while navigating the river. Their cries for help carried away by the current, and their souls now tethered to the lake. Others speak of tragic lovers who drowned together, bound by the river even in death. One particularly chilling account comes from a group of late-night kayakers, paddle in hand. They were crossing a quiet stretch of the lake when a glowing orb appeared in the distance. As they approached, the orb split into several smaller lights, moving around them in a slow, circling pattern. The kayakers reported feeling a sudden drop in temperature, their breaths forming misty clouds in the cool night air. The lights seemed to vanish only when they reached the center of the lake, leaving them disoriented and shaken. When they returned to shore, they noticed that their watches and devices had malfunctioned, as if the presence had disrupted modern technology. Fishermen along the river have their own tales. Some recall catching glimpses of figures standing along the shoreline, dressed in clothing that seems from another era, only to find the banks empty moments later. Others have reported that their lines tug mysteriously without a fish biting, feeling as if invisible hands are disturbing their equipment. The haunting seems most active during the quietest hours, when the moonlight casts long, silvery reflections across the water. Residents of the surrounding towns have also recounted their encounters with the supernatural. People living near the Brazos River and Possum Kingdom Lake sometimes hear faint laughter, the sound of footsteps on the shore, or even voices calling out names in the dead of night. Some believe that these are the echoes of parties and gatherings long past, while others suggest that the river itself retains memories of the lives lost to its depths. Those brave or perhaps foolish enough to venture near the water after sunset are warned to remain vigilant, as the line between the living and the dead seems particularly thin here. The lake's unique geography may contribute to its eerie reputation. Hidden coves, deep channels, and dense foliage along the banks create shadows that play tricks on the eyes, while the still waters can carry sounds in unusual ways. Wind and mist rising from the river interact with the night sky, creating shapes and patterns that sometimes appear ghostly. For many witnesses, these natural phenomena alone cannot explain the stories that have persisted for decades, as the experiences are often accompanied by sensations and occurrences that defy rational explanation. Some ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts have set up cameras and recording devices along the river, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. Footage often shows fleeting orbs, strange shadows, or unexplained movements on the water's surface. Despite the uncertainty and skepticism, those who spend time at Possum Kingdom Lake after dark frequently agree on one thing: there is an undeniable presence in the area, a lingering echo of lives once intertwined with the river. Possum Kingdom and the Brazos River continue to attract both tourists and thrill seekers, drawn to the supernatural allure. For some, the stories are simply legends, tales passed down to entertain and frighten. But for those who have encountered the glowing lights, shadowy figures, and inexplicable sounds firsthand, the river is much more than a scenic attraction. It is a place where the past bleeds into the present, where the spirits of the departed move unseen among the living. The Lavaca River in Texas flows with a quiet serenity by day, its waters glinting under the sun and surrounded by lush vegetation. Fishermen cast their lines along the banks, families picnic on the shore, and kayakers glide across the calm waters, enjoying the natural beauty of this historic river. Yet, as night falls, the Lavaca River takes on a far darker and more mysterious character. Beneath its tranquil surface lies a history steeped in tragedy, and locals have long told stories of ghostly occurrences that defy explanation. Fishermen and residents along the river speak of phantom rowboats that appear in the dead of night. These vessels glide silently across the water, empty of any crew, yet moving as if guided by unseen hands. Some witnesses claim that the boats appeared just after sunset, floating through low-hanging mist that rises from the river's surface. Others say they have seen the faint glow of lanterns aboard the rowboats, flickering in rhythm with an invisible presence. When approached, the boats vanish as if they had never existed, leaving observers shaken and questioning what they had truly witnessed. Accompanying these ghostly rowboats are the eerie cries that seem to echo across the riverbanks. Locals describe the sounds as mournful wails, the kind that pierce the night and carry a sorrowful weight. Some believe these are the voices of sailors who perished during sudden storms, their bodies claimed by the Lavaka's unforgiving waters. The cries sometimes appear to call out names, faint and almost human, and those who hear them report a chill that creeps up their spine, a coldness that seems to seep into the very bones. The sounds are unpredictable, arriving without warning and disappearing just as mysteriously, leaving the surrounding air heavy with an unexplainable tension. The history of the Lavaka River adds a layer of plausibility to these supernatural accounts. For centuries, the river has been a vital artery for trade, travel, and settlement. During the era of river commerce, storms were frequent and often deadly. Sailors and traders navigated the waters in wooden boats, vulnerable to sudden winds and surges. Many of these travelers were lost to the river, their deaths recorded only in scattered logs or oral stories passed down through generations. Locals believe that the spirits of these drowned sailors are still bound to the river, wandering along its banks or guiding phantom vessels trapped between the world of the living and the dead. Campers along the Lavaka River often share similar experiences. Some report hearing the sound of oars dipping into the water when no one is there, or the faint laughter of unseen companions drifting across the campsite. Others wake in the middle of the night to find mist curling over the surface of the river in unusual shapes, almost forming ghostly silhouettes that vanish when examined too closely. A few have even reported sudden gusts of wind and inexplicable drops in temperature that coincide with the appearance of these phenomena. The river, calm and peaceful by day, becomes a conduit for spirits and memories that refuse to fade. One widely recounted incident occurred when a small group of fishermen stayed late into the evening. They had set up near a quiet bend in the river, hoping for a bountiful catch under the stars. Around midnight, one of them noticed a small rowboat drifting toward them, lanterns faintly glowing aboard it. The boat seemed to move without effort, cutting through the water with unnatural silence. As they watched, the lanterns flickered and dimmed, and the boat dissolved into the mist. Moments later, they heard a series of soft cries, almost as if someone was calling for help. The experience left the men shaken, and none dared to return to that spot after dark. Local lore suggests that the spirits are not malevolent, but rather restless. They linger because of unfinished business or the sudden, violent nature of their deaths. Some tell stories of sailors attempting to warn passing boats of hidden dangers, their spectral forms guiding travelers safely, while others remain as echoes of sorrow, caught forever in the river's embrace. Sightings of translucent figures along the riverbanks, especially during foggy nights, reinforce the idea that the Lavaka is a place where the past refuses to remain buried. Fishermen have also recounted strange occurrences with their equipment. Lines are tugged when no fish are biting, bait disappears mysteriously, and rods topple without explanation. Some believe these are playful interactions from the spirits, or perhaps warnings to respect the river after dark. People living near the river report seeing figures in old sailor attire moving through the mist along the banks, vanishing if approached too closely. Children have spoken of hearing gentle humming or whispers as they play near the water, sounds that leave them uneasy and reluctant to venture alone. Paranormal enthusiasts have visited the Lavaka River in search of evidence. Cameras and recording devices sometimes capture unexplained lights on the water, shadowy movements along the shore, and faint audio that seems like distant voices. While skeptics dismiss these as natural phenomena, those who have experienced the river's haunting firsthand insist that there is something inexplicable at work. The combination of history, tragedy, and repeated eyewitness accounts makes the Lavaka River a compelling location for those drawn to the supernatural. Despite its serene beauty, the Lavaka River serves as a reminder that not all waters are tranquil. Beneath its reflective surface, the echoes of the past rippled through time. Phantom rowboats glide silently across the river. Spectral cries pierce the night, and shadowy figures wander the banks. For those who visit after dark, a sense of reverence and caution is advised. The spirits of sailors lost in storms and the lingering energies of the river's dark history remain, silently observing those who dare to step too close. The Nueces River in Texas wends its way through rolling plains and wooded areas. A river that has seen centuries of history unfold along its banks. By day, its waters glint under the sun, providing a picturesque backdrop for fishing, kayaking, and riverside strolls. Yet, beneath its calm and serene appearance, the Nueces River carries stories of tragedy and unrest, stories that have given rise to a reputation for paranormal activity. Locals and visitors alike have long whispered of ghostly occurrences, claiming that the spirits of the past continue to haunt the riverbanks. The river's history is rich, but often violent. During the Texas Revolution, the area surrounding the Nueces River was the site of skirmishes and battles, where soldiers clashed over territory and freedom. Many of these conflicts ended with tragic losses, as men fell along the river, their bodies sometimes carried away by the swift currents. It is said that the river itself remembers these events, for travelers at night often report hearing sounds that mimic long-forgotten battles. Local folklore tells of spectral soldiers who appear near the river at night. These apparitions are often described as shadowy figures in old military attire, moving silently along the banks or wading through the shallow water. Some witnesses report seeing figures poised as if readying for battle, only to vanish the moment they are closely observed. The most unnerving reports come from fishermen and campers who have ventured to the river after sunset. They describe sudden chills, the feeling of unseen eyes upon them, and the inexplicable sensation of being watched, even when the riverbank appears completely empty. One widely shared story involves a lone fisherman who stayed late on the river's edge, hoping for a quiet evening. As night fell, a low mist rolled in from the water, and he began to hear what he first assumed were echoes of his own movements. Then came the sounds of distant shouting, the metallic clash of swords, and the unmistakable report of musket fire. Frozen in place, he watched as shadowy figures emerged from the fog, moving in formation along the riverbank. They seemed oblivious to his presence, engaged entirely in the ghostly reenactment of a battle long past. Terrified, the fisherman later recounted that the sounds and figures dissipated only as the first light of dawn touched the river, leaving behind an eerie silence. Campers along the Nueces River have shared similar experiences. Some hear phantom footsteps behind their tents, footsteps that stop when they turn to look. Others describe sudden, unexplained drops in temperature, chills that seem to emanate from the ground itself. Occasionally, they report hearing soft whispers in languages no longer spoken, as if the fallen soldiers were calling out to one another from across time. Children playing near the water have been known to cry out, claiming to see men in old uniforms marching silently or standing guard along the shoreline. Paranormal investigators who have explored the area say that the river's atmosphere is unlike any other. Cameras sometimes capture blurred figures emerging from the mist, and audio recordings occasionally pick up strange sounds resembling battle cries or commands shouted in the distance. Skeptics argue that the noises are simply natural echoes amplified by the river's terrain or the wind moving through trees. Yet, those who have experienced the river firsthand insist that what they encounter is far more than coincidence or imagination. There is a tangible presence along the Nueces River, a lingering energy left behind by those who perished in conflict. The river's eerie reputation is compounded by the numerous accounts of ghostly lights. Locals have reported seeing flickering orbs along the water at night, appearing above the mist and drifting slowly downstream. Some believe these are spirits guiding lost souls, while others suggest they are warnings to respect the river after dark. Hikers and nocturnal adventurers recount feeling sudden gusts of wind or hearing the faint metallic tinkle of dropped weapons. Even when no one else is nearby, the river, which appears calm during the day, transforms into a liminal space at night, bridging the world of the living with that of the dead. Another chilling account comes from a group of history enthusiasts who camped along a bend in the river known for its battlefield lore. As darkness fell, the temperature dropped dramatically, and the air became heavy with fog. Suddenly, they heard the distinct crack of a musket, followed by the clatter of swords and shouting in the distance. Shadowy figures emerged from the mist, reenacting the skirmish with remarkable clarity. Some attempted to approach, but the figures vanished before they could get close. The group left the area shaken, convinced that the river still held the echoes of centuries-old battles. Over time, the Nueces River has become more than just a site of natural beauty. It is a living repository of memory and tragedy. Whether it is phantom soldiers marching along the banks, the sounds of battle echoing through the fog, or the strange orbs drifting above the water, the river serves as a reminder of the lives lost along its course. The spirits of fallen soldiers appear to remain tethered to the site of their last moments, their presence a haunting testament to history's often violent currents. For those who visit the Nueces River after dark, the experience can be both chilling and awe-inspiring. It is a place where history refuses to remain buried, where the past manifests in spectral forms, and where the whispers of fallen soldiers may be heard by those brave enough to listen. The river's waters, so calm and inviting during the day, become a conduit for memories of war, loss, and lingering spirits. Travelers along the Nueces River are reminded that the past flows as surely as the river itself, and that some echoes of history can never truly be silenced. The Trinity River in the Dallas area is a striking contrast between natural beauty and urban sprawl. During the day, it offers walking paths, jogging trails, and green spaces where residents and visitors enjoy the flow of the water and the surrounding landscape. Yet, when night falls, certain stretches of the river take on a darker and more mysterious character, particularly along the abandoned industrial areas that line some banks. The river seems to awaken, with a presence felt more than seen. Locals and joggers alike have reported encounters that are impossible to ignore: shadowy figures drifting through the fog, unexplained noises, and a sense of being watched that cannot be rationalized. The urban stretches of the Trinity River hold a layered history. Old factories, warehouses, and mills once thrived along its banks, built to capitalize on the river's proximity for shipping and trade. Many of these buildings were abandoned as industry shifted away, leaving empty shells of brick and steel. Over the decades, these structures have become homes to graffiti artists, urban explorers, and occasionally, to shadows of the past. It is here, amid rusting beams and broken windows, that many have reported experiencing the unexplainable. Joggers often tell of a sudden chill descending upon them as they run past certain stretches near the abandoned industrial sites. The air thickens with fog, even when the surrounding city seems clear, and there is the feeling of eyes upon them. Some have caught glimpses of figures just out of the corner of their eyes, people dressed in early 20th century clothing, hats and long coats drifting silently along the riverbanks. When approached, these figures vanish as though they were never there, leaving only a lingering sense of unease. One account comes from a night jogger who took his usual route along the river after a late shift. He noticed a fog rolling in earlier than usual, soft and low, hugging the concrete embankments. As he rounded a bend near a decaying warehouse, he saw a figure standing by the river, motionless. The person wore a long coat and a flat cap, looking completely out of place in the modern cityscape. The jogger slowed, feeling an almost magnetic pull toward the figure, and when he took another step, the figure dissolved into the mist. Heart pounding, he ran the rest of the route, glancing over his shoulder to see the shape reappear fleetingly along the edge of the fog. Urban explorers have similar stories. Those who venture into the hollow shells of old factories describe hearing faint footsteps echoing across empty hallways, or doors creaking open and shut without any wind. In some cases, they have reported hearing whispered conversations in languages or dialects that are foreign to the area. The experience is not violent, but it is disorienting. The sense that the river itself is watching, that history has seeped into the bricks and mortar, leaving a residue of memory that cannot be erased. The figures seen along the river are not always clear. Some are glimpsed only as shadows moving through the fog, while others appear to carry objects: a briefcase, a lantern, or even a coil of rope. One particularly eerie tale involves a couple walking along a quieter stretch of the river. They spotted a man in old-fashioned attire leaning over the water, appearing to fish despite the lack of any equipment. When they tried to approach him, he simply vanished, leaving the couple shaken and questioning their own senses. Locals have begun to associate certain areas of the Trinity River with these mysterious apparitions. Points near crumbling warehouses and abandoned mills are the most commonly reported. Some believe that these spirits are the echoes of workers from the early industrial era people who spent long hours toiling along the riverbanks and perhaps met untimely or tragic ends. Others speculate that the fog itself serves as a conduit, allowing memories of the past to temporarily manifest in the present. Regardless of the reason, the experiences are consistently unsettling, leaving those who witness them with more questions than answers. Some visitors have even reported hearing faint sounds of machinery or footsteps along the river, sounds that stop abruptly when they investigate. Joggers and walkers sometimes describe an inexplicable weight to the air, as though something unseen is passing through them or brushing past their clothing. The phenomenon seems to follow no predictable pattern, intensifying on nights when fog or mist lingers and receding when the city lights are brightest. The Trinity River, a blend of natural elements and abandoned urban spaces, seems to create the perfect conditions for paranormal activity. The river flows silently, reflecting the city lights and the occasional shadowy figure moving along its banks. Each bend in the river seems to hold its own story, and those who venture late at night report sensing the presence of the past, as though the people who once lived and worked here have not fully left. The feeling is not always threatening, but it is persistent and undeniable, a quiet reminder that history does not vanish so easily. Whether these sightings are the spirits of workers, echoes of old lives, or simply tricks of light and fog, the Trinity River's haunted reputation is growing. Those who walk or jog along its urban stretches after dark are advised to remain aware of their surroundings and respect the stories that have been passed down through decades. The shadowy figures, unexplained noises, and sudden chills serve as reminders that even in a bustling city like Dallas, the past flows silently alongside the present, leaving ghostly traces that only reveal themselves to those willing to see them. The San Jacinto River, winding quietly near Houston, is known for its historical significance as the site of the decisive Battle of San Jacinto in 1836, where Texian forces secured Texas independence from Mexico. Yet, beyond its historical importance, the river carries an eerie presence that has been felt by locals, historians, and late-night visitors for generations. While the waters today reflect the tranquil sky and the green banks offer serene walks, those who venture near the river after dusk often speak of sensations that are anything but peaceful. The area surrounding the San Jacinto River has long been a point of both reverence and fascination. Historians recount the battle with pride, noting the strategic maneuvers and the heroism of those who fought. However, for some, the echoes of that violent past linger in ways that are difficult to explain. Visitors to the river at night have reported seeing ghostly reenactments of the battle itself. Spectral soldiers in period uniforms marching along the riverbanks, rifles slung over their shoulders, and cannons firing with no sound but the shaking of the ground and a faint smoky haze rising over the water. One evening, a group of history enthusiasts set out to the river to observe the area after sunset. As they reached the old battlefield near the banks, a thick fog rolled in from the water, chilling the air and muting the sounds of the city nearby. Suddenly, they noticed shadows moving through the mist, figures in 19th-century military attire, moving with a precision that suggested disciplined troops. The group froze, unsure whether what they were seeing was a reenactment or something far more unsettling. The figures marched along the edge of the water, then disappeared suddenly, leaving only the lingering fog and an unnatural stillness. Other visitors have reported hearing faint commands and shouted orders, often in rapid succession, as if officers were directing their troops in the chaos of battle. These sounds are not carried by the wind, but seem to emanate directly from the riverbanks themselves, growing louder and then fading into the night. Some describe hearing the distinct rhythm of marching feet on soft ground, and even the occasional clash of metal, as though swords and bayonets are meeting in combat. Those who hear these noises often feel a cold brush of air, a sudden chill that runs through them despite warm evening temperatures. Locals recount tales of spectral soldiers appearing near landmarks that existed during the battle, such as the remnants of old fortifications or natural ridges that served as defensive positions. One story tells of a fisherman who stayed late at the river, unaware of the night's creeping fog. He described seeing a ghostly column of soldiers advancing across the water's edge, rifles gleaming faintly under the moonlight. As he approached to investigate, the soldiers vanished instantly, leaving ripples in the water but no other trace of their presence. The fisherman later recounted that he could still hear the echo of commands and the rhythm of marching in his dreams for weeks after. The San Jacinto River has also been the site of more subtle paranormal phenomena. Some visitors report inexplicable sensations of being watched, even when the riverbank appears empty. Others speak of strange mists that rise from the water, forming vague human-like shapes or lingering in unnatural patterns that seem to mimic the formation of troops. Photographers and videographers attempting to capture the river at night occasionally report anomalies in their footage, blurs of motion that cannot be explained by wind or wildlife, faint silhouettes that vanish when approached, or shadows that appear much larger than any person could be. Those who are familiar with the history of the area suggest that these manifestations are tied to the tragic and violent events of 1836. Thousands of men fought fiercely along these banks, many falling in the heat of battle. Some scholars speculate that the intense emotional energy from those who perished has left a residual imprint on the land, a phenomenon sometimes called a stone tape effect, where traumatic events are recorded into the environment and occasionally replayed in spectral echoes. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the reports are consistent and chilling. The river seems alive with the past, replaying scenes of valor, fear, and death long after the living have moved on. Even during the day, the river can feel heavy with history. Visitors often remark on the weight of the air and the unusual quiet along the banks, as if the river itself is holding its breath. Evening visitors, however, are the ones who most often report the unmistakable signs of haunting: sudden fog rolling across the water, inexplicable noises, and the sight of spectral soldiers. Some thrill-seekers intentionally visit the area at night, hoping to witness these apparitions, while historians urge caution, warning that the river carries both the memory of battle and a palpable sense of lingering sorrow. For some, the San Jacinto River is a place of reflection, where the bravery and sacrifices of those who fought are honored. For others, it is a location of uncanny experiences that defy explanation, where the past refuses to remain buried. The stories of ghostly reenactments, marching figures, and distant commands create a sense that the events of 1836 continue to ripple through time, surfacing in fog, shadow, and sound. Whether one interprets these occurrences as supernatural or psychological, there is no denying that the river has a presence unlike any other, blending history, mystery, and the unknown into a haunting tableau. Caddo Lake and its winding river system lie on the border of Texas and Louisiana, cloaked in mist and mystery. With its maze of cypress trees, trailing moss, and still, reflective waters, it's one of the most atmospheric places in the South. The lake seems to hold time itself in suspension, quiet, heavy, and almost unnaturally still after sunset. Locals tell stories of figures gliding in small boats that make no sound, of pale lights that flicker above the swamp, and of voices calling out from the darkness, echoing across the black water. For generations, the people who live near Caddo Lake have spoken of spectral fishermen who never returned home. Their ghosts, it's said, still cast invisible nets in the fog, reliving their final nights. Some believe these lost souls belong to men who drowned in sudden storms or accidents, their boats overturned in the dense waterways. Others think the spirits are remnants of older times traders, hunters, or even native inhabitants, whose presence still lingers. Late at night, fishermen drifting too far from shore have claimed to see other boats in the mist, old-fashioned skiffs gliding across the lake, their lanterns dim and yellow. When they call out, there's no response, only silence, and sometimes a low splash, as if something large slipped beneath the surface. The ghostly lights are among the most well-known mysteries of Caddo Lake. They appear as hovering orbs, moving gracefully above the water or between the trees. sometimes in clusters, sometimes alone. Witnesses say they shimmer like fireflies, but are much larger, pulsing with a strange inner glow. Some believe they're the spirits of those lost in the swamp, guiding or warning any who dare to enter. Others suggest they're remnants of old lanterns, forever burning through the swamp air, the echoes of a time when riverboats and fishing barges filled these waters. Whatever their origin, one thing remains certain: the lights vanish when approached, flickering out the moment a person draws near. The sounds of the lake are equally haunting. Even on calm nights, strange noises ripple across the surface, soft splashes, the creak of oars, and faint murmurs that seem to come from nowhere. Locals describe the unsettling experience of hearing their names whispered through the fog. The voice always familiar, yet impossible to place. Hunters have followed these voices, thinking they belonged to companions, only to find themselves lost deeper in the swamp, surrounded by thick mist and unfamiliar silence. When they turn back, they often find that hours have passed, though it felt like only minutes. Cato Lake's beauty hides its danger. The dense cypress forests and tangled vegetation can disorient even experienced explorers. More than one person has gone missing over the years, their boats later discovered adrift, belongings intact, but the owner nowhere to be found. These disappearances have fed the belief that the lake claims those who disrespect it, drawing them under with unseen hands. Elders in nearby towns advise newcomers not to wander the shoreline after dark. They say the spirits of those who drowned are possessive, envious of the living, and may mistake footsteps or voices as invitations to join them. On windless nights, when the moon hangs low, the reflection of the trees and stars turns the water into a mirror of shadow and light. People standing on the shore have reported seeing figures walking across the surface. Not reflections, but silhouettes, men carrying fishing poles or lanterns, moving slowly through the mist. When observed too closely, the figures fade, leaving only ripples and a sudden chill in the air. There are stories, too, of phantom boats drifting downstream, lanterns glowing faintly, carrying no visible passengers. Locals insist these are the spirits of drowned travelers or fishermen still searching for home. Those who have seen them say they move steadily, never deviating, vanishing into the fog as silently as they came. Sometimes, the faint sound of a paddle or the soft hum of a voice can be heard from within the mist, a reminder that the past is not gone, but merely waiting below the surface. Cato Lake holds its secrets well. The air there feels heavier, charged with memory. Visitors describe the sensation of being watched, of unseen eyes following from behind the curtains of moss. The combination of stillness and sound, the whispering reeds, the gentle splash of unseen movements creates an atmosphere both beautiful and foreboding. It's a place where the line between life and death feels thin, where the spirits of the lost still drift in the spaces between the living world and the one beyond. The Brazos River, near Waco, Texas, is a site of both natural beauty and lingering unease. By day, the river glistens under the sun, its waters calm as they wind through the surrounding countryside. But by night, locals and visitors alike speak in hushed tones about the river's darker side. Tales of hauntings and strange phenomena have been passed down for generations, linking the river to the spirits of former prison inmates and long-deceased riverboat workers. Many of the stories trace back to the river's role in local history. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, the Brazos River was a vital transportation route, serving both riverboats and barges that carried goods and passengers. Some of these journeys ended in tragedy. Boats sank during storms, accidents claimed lives, and those who worked along the river faced harsh conditions that often resulted in untimely deaths. In addition, the river ran close to several penitentiaries and temporary detention sites, where prisoners endured brutal labor and harsh punishments. It is said that many of those who perished near the river never truly found peace. Visitors to the Brazos River at night have reported a range of unsettling experiences. Some speak of the feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes follow their every move along the riverbanks. Others hear footsteps echoing on the gravel and sand. But when they turn to see who or what is approaching, the path remains empty. These footsteps are often accompanied by the clatter of chains, a sound attributed to the restless spirits of prisoners who suffered and died near the river's edge. One man recounting his experience described walking along the river just after sunset. The air was still, the surface of the water reflecting the last streaks of daylight. As he moved closer to an old dock, he felt a cold breeze brush past him, unusual for the warm summer night. Then came the sound of chains dragging across the wooden planks, followed by low, echoing footsteps. Heart-pounding, he called out, thinking another person might be playing a prank, but his voice was met only with silence. When he turned to leave, he caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure standing near the water, a man dressed in tattered clothing, chains wrapped around his wrists. The figure disappeared when he blinked, leaving only the echo of footsteps behind him. Others have reported hearing voices carried by the wind, whispers that rise and fall with the current of the river. These voices sometimes speak in fragmented sentences, as if recounting a story of suffering, longing, or unfinished business. Some hear pleas for help, while others report eerie laughter echoing from the water. Chilling in its suddenness and unpredictability, locals believe these sounds belong to the spirits of riverboat workers who met their end in accidents or drownings, forever tied to the waters they once navigated. The river's haunted reputation is particularly strong near abandoned docks and old industrial sites along the Waco stretch. Here, the energy of the past seems to linger most heavily. Hunters, fishermen, and nighttime walkers have reported sudden drops in temperature, a classic sign of paranormal presence. A mist often rises off the river after dark, moving unnaturally, sometimes forming vague, human-like shapes. People have described seeing fleeting shadows darting across the water, disappearing just as quickly as they appeared. One legend tells of a riverboat worker named Samuel, who was said to have fallen overboard during a violent storm in the late 1800s. According to witnesses, Samuel's spirit can still be seen walking along the riverbanks at night, carrying an invisible burden. Some say he drifts silently along the water, searching for his lost crew, while others claim his presence brings a sense of melancholy that is almost tangible. Those who feel this sorrow often report a heaviness in their chest or a sudden chill, as if the river itself mourns alongside him. Another tale involves former prisoners who labored along the Brazos River, maintaining docks, transporting goods, or performing forced labor on nearby farms. It is said that their spirits, bound by the injustices of their deaths, remain tethered to the river. Witnesses claim to have seen figures chained to posts or walking along the shore, their movements slow and deliberate. Some nights, the sound of dragging chains or the faint echo of a prisoner's call for mercy can be heard, vanishing as quickly as it arrives. Paranormal investigators who have visited the Waco stretch of the Brazos River often report similar findings. Equipment sometimes records unexplained temperature drops, EMF spikes, and strange audio phenomena. Cameras have captured shadowy shapes moving across the river or standing along its banks, though no one was visible during the recording. Many who return from these investigations describe the sensation of being followed or of a presence lingering just beyond their sight, a chilling reminder that the river holds more than just water in its depths. Even locals who avoid the river after dark acknowledge the stories. They share warnings about venturing alone at night, advising that the spirits are most active when the world is quiet, when the moonlight glints off the water, and when the river's surface is still and reflective. Some have claimed that encounters are less frequent during the day, suggesting that the spirits become more visible or more active under the cover of night. Despite the fear these stories inspire, the Brazos River near Waco remains a destination for thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts. Some come seeking evidence, while others hope to experience a brush with the supernatural firsthand. The river's combination of history, tragedy, and eerie occurrences creates a setting that is both beautiful and unsettling, a place where the past refuses to remain buried and where the echoes of those who suffered continue to ripple across the water. The Guadalupe River, near Kerrville, Texas, winds gracefully through the scenic hill country, its waters sparkling in the sunlight and reflecting the rugged beauty of limestone cliffs and rolling hills. By day, it is a favorite spot for campers, kayakers, and hikers seeking respite from the heat. Families gather along the banks, anglers cast their lines, and the river's soothing flow carries away the worries of the world. But as the sun dips below the horizon and shadows stretch across the landscape, the Guadalupe River takes on a different, far more unsettling character. Locals have long whispered about its haunted stretches, particularly near the wooded areas and quiet bends, where the sounds of nature are easily mistaken for something else entirely. The stories of the river are numerous, but many focus on the mysterious disappearances of campers and hikers over the decades. Some vanish without a trace, leaving behind tents, backpacks, or abandoned campfires. In many cases, those left behind report hearing the faint sounds of voices calling their names, carried on the wind, as though some presences, guiding or warning them. Hikers often speak of sudden cold spots that seem impossible given the warm Texas nights, and a creeping sense of being watched that grows more intense the further they venture from the main paths. One frequently told story involves a group of college students who set up camp along a quiet bend of the river in the summer of the 1980s. The first night, they enjoyed laughter and music, but as darkness fell, they began to hear whispers. At first, they assumed it was the wind moving through the trees. But the whispers carried distinct words, their own names, repeated softly and insistently. One student went to investigate, calling out to her friends, but she never returned. The others searched the area until dawn, finding only her abandoned backpack and a small puddle of water near the riverbank. Locals say that if you visit that bend at night, you can still hear faint whispers in the wind, almost as if the river itself remembers that tragic evening. Another tale speaks of a lone fisherman who camped along the river during the fall. As night settled in, he reported a sudden, freezing chill despite the mild weather. Mist rolled off the river in unnatural patterns, forming shapes that seemed almost human. He saw figures moving silently along the opposite bank, pale and indistinct, yet unmistakably alive or undead. When he tried to approach, the figures vanished, as if swallowed by the river's shadows, leaving him with the echo of soft, sorrowful singing. Terrified, he packed his gear and fled, never returning. Today, locals caution that the river's banks near that spot are particularly active after sunset, warning adventurers to remain vigilant. The phenomena along the Guadalupe River extend beyond sudden cold spots and whispers. Many who spend time near the water report strange sensations, a tug at clothing or hair, a light brush against the arm, or the fleeting impression of being guided or blocked by an unseen hand. Some campers have claimed to see figures moving through the woods that vanish when approached, while others describe ghostly lights dancing above the water, flickering like will-o'-the wisps. These lights are often described as bluish or pale yellow, hovering just above the surface of the river, moving in ways that defy natural explanation. Stories also tell of hikers who disappear only to be found days later, miles from where they went missing, with no memory of how they traveled. Some speak of waking to find themselves on the opposite bank of the river, or deep in the woods with only the sound of rushing water to guide them. A few have reported encounters with apparitions resembling long-dead travelers, dressed in outdated clothing, carrying lanterns or backpacks. These figures reportedly stare silently before fading into the trees or river mist, leaving witnesses with an overwhelming feeling of unease. Locals often speculate that the spirits along the Guadalupe River are tied to past tragedies. In the hill country, the river has long been a lifeline for settlers, travelers, and indigenous peoples, but it has also claimed many lives. Flash floods, drownings, and accidents along rocky banks are all part of the river's history, and some believe that the souls of those lost continue to linger. Native American legends add another layer of mystery, with stories of spirits who watch over the river and guide or sometimes mislead those who wander too close at night. Paranormal investigators, who have explored the area frequently, report similar experiences. EMF detectors spike inexplicably, cold spots appear in the middle of warm nights, and audio recordings capture faint whispers or ghostly calls. Investigators note a consistent pattern. The deeper into the secluded parts of the river one goes, the stronger the sensation of being observed becomes. Despite the fear that accompanies these stories, the Guadalupe River continues to draw adventurers and thrill seekers. Some come hoping for a glimpse of the supernatural, while others simply enjoy the beauty of the river, unaware of its haunted reputation. But those who have encountered the ghostly phenomena often leave with a renewed respect for the river, understanding that beneath its calm, flowing surface lies a history filled with sorrow, mystery, and lingering spirits. Walking along the Guadalupe River near Kerrville after dark is an experience that leaves a lasting impression. The gentle rustling of leaves can easily become whispers. The mist rising from the water seems alive, and the darkness beyond the riverbank feels like it holds secrets that refuse to stay buried. Whether it is the lost campers, the spirits of travelers, or the echoes of the past, the Guadalupe River carries them all. Its waters are not just a lifeline for the living, but a pathway for the memories and unresolved stories of those who came before, flowing silently but never forgotten. The Colorado River, as it winds its way through Austin, Texas, is a lifeline to the city. By day, it glistens under the sun, attracting boaters, kayakers, and walkers along its scenic banks. Families enjoy picnics on its shores, joggers traverse its trails, and the water reflects the bright energy of a bustling city. Yet, beneath this vibrant surface, the river holds a darker, more unsettling history. Locals speak in hushed tones about the stretch of water running through Austin, where tragedy and mysterious occurrences have marked the river for decades. The stretch of the Colorado River that passes through Austin has been the site of multiple drownings over the years, many of which remain shrouded in mystery. Some were accidental, the result of strong currents or sudden storms, while others involve less clear circumstances, prompting speculation and ghostly tales. Kayakers and walkers who frequent the river after dark often report strange experiences that cannot be explained by the natural environment. These experiences include sudden chills, unexplained whispers, and the sensation of being watched from the water or riverbank, as if unseen eyes track every movement. One recurring phenomenon reported by night visitors is hearing cries for help coming from the river. Some claim to hear the faint sound of a person struggling, only for it to vanish as quickly as it appeared. A kayaker who paddled this stretch of the river late one summer evening recounted how he heard a desperate voice calling out from mid-river, pleading for help. He immediately scanned the dark waters, but there was no one in sight. Moments later, the sound vanished, leaving only the ripple of water from his paddle. Locals believe that these cries are echoes of those who drowned, trapped in the river's memory, unable to find peace. Adding to the haunting atmosphere, some walkers along the river report hearing ghostly music drifting over the water. This is said to resemble the tunes of long-forgotten riverboats that once ferried passengers and cargo through Austin. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, the Colorado River was a hub of commerce and recreation, with paddle steamers and small boats transporting goods and people. According to legend, some of the spirits of passengers and boatmen linger, playing soft melodies that drift eerily through the night air. Those who hear it often describe a melancholic tone, one that evokes both nostalgia and unease, as if the river itself is mourning what was lost. The riverbanks are equally active in reports of paranormal activity. Walkers and joggers have reported sudden drops in temperature, cold spots that appear with no natural explanation, and shadows moving just beyond the reach of streetlights. Some describe fleeting glimpses of figures in old-fashioned clothing, standing silently by the water, staring at the river, as if they are waiting for someone or something. When approached, these figures disappear, leaving witnesses with an unsettling mix of fear and wonder. A particularly chilling story involves a small group of friends who ventured onto the river in kayaks after sunset. As they paddled, a thick fog rolled in, unusual for a clear Austin night. Within the mist, they began to hear voices, low murmurs, whispers, and faint cries. One of the friends reported seeing the ghostly outline of a paddle boat hovering just above the water, glowing faintly in the fog. Figures dressed in period attire moved across the deck, waving silently before fading into the mist. Terrified, the group paddled back to shore, but each of them claimed the sensation of being followed lingered even after they were on solid ground. Fishermen, who stay late along the river, have also recounted strange occurrences. Tackle boxers move on their own. Lines are pulled when no fish are present, and shadows dart across the water's surface. Some have claimed to see silhouettes of children playing near the banks, only to vanish when approached. These experiences have led many locals to warn outsiders against lingering by the Colorado River at night, especially in the stretches where history and tragedy converge. Paranormal investigators have documented consistent patterns of unusual activity along the Austin stretch of the Colorado River. Audio recordings occasionally capture whispers, distant cries, and faint musical notes, even in the absence of human sources. EMF detectors spike unexpectedly, and video equipment sometimes picks up unexplained shadows or glowing orbs above the water. Investigators note that the areas near older piers, forgotten river crossings, and bends associated with historical drownings are particularly active, reinforcing the notion that the river remembers its past. Despite the eerie reputation, the Colorado River continues to draw nighttime adventurers and thrill-seekers, from kayakers chasing a spectral challenge to walkers hoping to catch a glimpse of the unexplained. Those who experience the hauntings often describe a profound respect for the river, understanding that its waters are not just a physical force, but a repository of memory, sorrow, and lingering spirits. The river's surface may appear calm, but its depths hold echoes of lives lost and stories that refuse to remain silent. For anyone visiting the Colorado River in Austin after dark, the experience is unforgettable. The cries for help, the ghostly music, and the fleeting shadows serve as a reminder that history never truly dies. The spirits of those who perished continue to drift along the river, sharing the waterway with the living, leaving their presence imprinted on the banks and waters alike. The Colorado River is not merely a river, it is a place where past and present intersect, where the living brush against the unseen, and where the memories of tragedy flow as inexorably as the current itself. Sabine Lake, in the mouth of the Sabine River, straddling the border between Texas and Louisiana, are known for their natural beauty. But beneath the calm waters lies a history marked by tragedy and mystery. For centuries, these waters have been both a lifeline and a perilous obstacle for sailors, fishermen, and traders. The combination of shifting sandbars, sudden storms, and hidden channels has made the area particularly dangerous, leading to countless shipwrecks. Over time, these maritime disasters have given rise to stories of ghostly phenomena, transforming the region into one of Texas's most intriguing paranormal hotspots. Fishermen who navigate the waters near the river mouth after dusk often report unusual experiences. Some speak of ghostly lights flickering just above the surface of the lake, moving in patterns that no boat or buoy could create. These lights, known locally as sailors' lanterns, are said to be the spectral remnants of those who perished in shipwrecks. Witnesses describe them as glowing orbs or flickering lanterns, bobbing in perfect rhythm with the waves, disappearing when approached, leaving only the reflection of the moon on the water. Coastal patrols and maritime workers also share tales of ghostly apparitions along the river mouth. Some report seeing sailors in period clothing standing on the decks of submerged ships, silently watching as modern vessels pass by. Their faces are often obscured, shrouded in mist, yet their presence is undeniable. Others describe shadows moving along the water's edge, or figures climbing from the river into small skiffs, only to vanish moments later. These encounters are typically accompanied by a profound sense of unease, a feeling that the past is watching, judging, or replaying its tragedies. Stormy nights seem to amplify the paranormal activity. Locals recount how sudden fogs roll in off the lake, obscuring vision and muffling sound. Within this fog, it is said, the cries of sailors who drowned in long-forgotten shipwrecks echo faintly, sometimes mixed with the sounds of crashing timbers or splintering masts. Fishermen have reported their nets being pulled unexpectedly, the sensation of unseen hands disturbing their gear, or the sudden tug of currents where no natural movement should exist. Many attribute these phenomena to restless spirits unwilling to leave the waters that claimed their lives. Historically, Sabine Lake and its river mouth were vital maritime routes, with naval skirmishes and commercial trade shaping the area. Conflicts during the 19th century, including encounters between rival shipping companies and naval engagements during regional disputes, left a number of casualties in the murky waters. Over time, stories emerged of the spirits of sailors who never returned to shore, haunting the river mouth, perhaps reliving their final moments. Locals say that on quiet nights, when the wind is still and the water mirrors the sky, one can hear the distant commands of naval officers or the shouts of sailors struggling against waves. Boaters and kayakers have their own chilling experiences. Some describe paddling through an eerily calm stretch of water, only to feel sudden drops in temperature or a tug on their vessels. Shadowy forms appear at the edge of visibility, always retreating when looked at directly. A few thrill-seekers recount being followed by glowing figures that maintain a perfect distance, as if guiding them or warning them, though no logical explanation exists for the movements. Many swear the spirits are neither hostile nor malevolent. Rather, they are echoes of lives interrupted, bound to the waters where their stories ended. Even the shoreline holds its own mysteries. Visitors walking along the river mouth at night report footprints appearing in the sand that disappear when approached. Some claim to hear laughter, singing, or the faint sound of shanties carried by the wind. Others have glimpsed figures walking along the banks, their features indistinct, as if cloaked in the mists of time. These phenomena are not limited to one era. Accounts describe apparitions ranging from early 19th century sailors to fishermen of more recent times. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to the area, documenting unusual readings and phenomena. Audio recordings have captured whispers, moans, and what sound like the creaking of old timbers. EMF detectors sometimes spike without any electrical source nearby, and cameras occasionally record orbs of light hovering just above the water or disappearing into the fog. Investigators note that activity seems concentrated near historic shipwreck sites and areas where the river's currents have claimed the most lives. Despite its eerie reputation, the Sabine River mouth and Sabine Lake remain a hub of life during the day, with fishermen, birdwatchers, and boaters enjoying its natural beauty. Yet as dusk falls and the waters darken, a different side emerges, a side where history and tragedy leave their indelible mark. Visitors often report feeling an invisible presence, a subtle pressure or watchfulness as they navigate the river, and a growing awareness that the lake and river mouth are alive, not just with water and wildlife, but with memories of the past. To approach Sabine Lake and the mouth of the Sabine River at night is to step into a liminal space, where the boundary between the living and the dead becomes thin. Ghostly lights flicker on the waves, phantom sailors move across the water, and whispers drift across the marshes. It is a place where the tragedies of history are not forgotten, where lives claimed by the river linger, and where visitors are reminded that some waters carry more than just currents. They carry memories, sorrow, and spirits that refuse to let go. The Red River near Texarkana is more than just a natural border between Texas and Oklahoma. It is a river steeped in history and tragedy, and for those who dare to travel its banks at night, it is a place alive with stories of the supernatural. Over the centuries, the Red River has seen settlers, traders, soldiers, and outlaws traverse its waters and cross its bridges, and with them came countless accidents, drownings, and lost lives. It is these tragedies, locals believe, that have left an indelible mark on the river, giving rise to tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena that persist to this day. Travelers along the Red River near Texarkana often report eerie experiences, especially after dusk. One of the most common and chilling reports is that of ghostly stagecoaches appearing out of the mist. Witnesses describe the faint outline of a coach drawn by spectral horses, moving silently across the riverbanks, or even appearing to float slightly above the water, the wheels leaving no mark on the soft soil. The coaches are often accompanied by figures dressed in 19th century attire, men in top hats and women in long flowing dresses, their faces blurred or obscured by shadows. The apparition seems purposeful, as though the passengers are still bound to their journey, unable to reach their destination in the world of the living. Those who have encountered the ghostly stagecoaches often recount a sense of deep unease, a feeling of being watched or followed. Some have heard the faint sound of wheels creaking, the soft clatter of hooves, or even the distant chatter of passengers discussing matters long forgotten. The noises are subtle, often drowned out by the wind or the gentle flow of the river, yet they linger in the minds of those who hear them. A few brave souls have attempted to approach the apparitions, only to find that the stagecoaches and figures vanish upon closer inspection, leaving the night calm and silent once more. Local legends say that the spirits are those of travelers who perished along the river, victims of treacherous crossings, violent robberies, or simply the unforgiving currents of the Red River. Stagecoaches were a common mode of transportation during the 19th century, and accidents were frequent. Travelers often lost their lives in sudden floods or during violent ambushes along the riverbank. Some were merchants or settlers seeking new opportunities, others soldiers returning from campaigns or outlaws fleeing the law. The river became their final resting place, and according to lore, their spirits remained tethered to the river, replaying the journeys they could not complete in life. Besides the ghostly stagecoaches, many locals speak of figures in period clothing appearing near abandoned river crossings and old ferry landing sites. These figures often seem unaware of the living, moving as if caught in a moment, frozen in time. Witnesses have reported seeing them standing at the river's edge, staring silently at the water, only to disappear when approached. Some appear to be searching for someone or something, their movements desperate yet eerily calm, as though trapped between the world of the living and the dead. The Red River near Texarkana has also been the site of sudden mists and cold spots, phenomena that many associate with paranormal activity. Walkers and fishermen report feeling a sudden drop in temperature, accompanied by the sensation of an unseen presence brushing past them. In some instances, the mists seem to take on shapes, forming vague silhouettes of travelers, horses, or even the outline of a stagecoach. The combination of visual and physical sensations creates an immersive, chilling experience for anyone present during these occurrences. Some accounts speak of hearing faint voices, whispers carried by the river's evening breeze. These whispers are often unintelligible, as if speaking a language from another time, but they convey urgency, fear, or sorrow. A few witnesses have reported hearing their own names called softly, sometimes repeatedly, drawing them toward the riverbank. Despite these unnerving experiences, there is rarely any malevolent intent. The spirits seem bound by unresolved journeys and unfinished business rather than a desire to harm the living. Historically, the Red River was a critical route for commerce and travel, but it was also a place of danger. Floods, robberies, and deadly accidents claimed countless lives, creating a tapestry of sorrow and loss that many believe persists in spectral form. The stories passed down through generations speak of restless travelers, trapped between worlds, unwilling or unable to leave the river's edge. Even today, the landscape retains a sense of foreboding. Twisted trees along the banks, fog that rises unannounced, and the quiet, relentless flow of the river all contribute to the haunted atmosphere. Paranormal investigators have documented unusual readings near old crossings and ferry sites. EMF detectors sometimes spike with no electrical source nearby, and audio recordings capture unexplained footsteps, faint whispers, or the distant rumble of wheels on the riverbank. Photographs occasionally reveal orbs or faint shapes that defy conventional explanation. These reports reinforce the enduring legend of the Red River's haunted stretches, making it a destination for thrill seekers and ghost enthusiasts alike. Visiting the Red River near Texarkana at night is an experience that combines history, nature, and the supernatural. The river itself flows quietly, its waters reflecting the moon and stars. Yet beneath its calm surface lies centuries of tragedy and unresolved journeys. Those who venture there may witness the faint outline of a stagecoach gliding through the mist, hear whispers from unseen travelers, or feel the weight of eyes watching from the darkness. The river is a living reminder that some spirits never leave, and some stories never truly end. The Trinity River in the Fort Worth area is more than just a flowing body of water. It's a place where history and the supernatural converge. Stretching through the heart of the city, The river has witnessed centuries of human activity, from early settlers navigating its waters to the rise of mills and industrial complexes along its banks. While the river has long been a source of livelihood and recreation, it also carries a reputation for eerie happenings, particularly near abandoned structures, old bridges, and fog-laden stretches that seem suspended in time. Locals and visitors alike have reported unusual experiences, and the Trinity River has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted spots in Fort Worth. Walking along the river near the old mills, one can feel the weight of history. These mills, once bustling with activity, now stand in decay, their machinery silent, rusting, and overgrown with vines. Residents and explorers who venture into these areas after dark often report seeing shadowy figures flitting between the ruins. Some describe vague human forms, seemingly dressed in clothing from another era, moving deliberately yet silently through the mist. These apparitions vanish when approached, leaving only the sound of water flowing over rocks and the occasional creak of the abandoned structures behind. Strange lights are another commonly reported phenomenon along the Trinity River. On foggy nights, visitors have observed orbs of light hovering above the water or dancing along the riverbanks. These lights appear to move with intent, sometimes following passers-by or gliding above the surface as if conducting a silent vigil. Some witnesses claim the lights are reminiscent of lanterns carried by figures from the past, perhaps workers from the old mills or travelers crossing the river long ago. Despite the ethereal beauty, the lights often carry a sense of foreboding, and many report feeling an invisible presence nearby, as though unseen eyes are observing their every movement. The river's bridges, both modern and abandoned, are focal points for ghostly activity. The older bridges, in particular, have been the site of numerous reports of apparitions standing or walking along the spans at night. Some appear as indistinct shadows, while others have been described as fully formed figures, sometimes appearing to stare across the water. A few locals claim to hear footsteps echoing on these bridges, even when no one else is present. Occasionally, the sound of distant voices or murmurs drifts through the fog, creating a chilling auditory experience that seems impossible to trace to any source. Many believe that these ghostly manifestations are tied to the river's history. The Trinity River has been witness to accidents, drownings, and industrial mishaps throughout Fort Worth's development. Workers in the mills faced dangerous conditions, and some met untimely deaths in the machinery or along the riverbanks. Others perished while attempting to cross the river in small boats or ferries, swept away by sudden currents or submerged beneath hidden sandbars. According to legend, the spirits of these individuals remain tethered to the river, replaying the moments of their final hours for anyone willing to witness them. Even those simply walking the river's edge during foggy nights have reported sudden, inexplicable sensations. Cold spots appear with no source, and the air seems heavier in certain areas. Some feel a light brush of air against their skin, as if someone or something has just passed. Hikers and joggers speak of an unsettling feeling of being followed, and many describe a pervasive sense of sadness or melancholy that lingers long after they leave the area. This emotional residue is believed by paranormal enthusiasts to be the imprint of past traumas, echoing through the fabric of the environment itself. Locals also tell tales of witnessing more active ghostly events. On some nights, figures appear to move along the riverbank, performing tasks or gestures reminiscent of daily life in the past. A shadowy man might be seen adjusting a mill tool or inspecting a boat, while another figure walks purposefully across a bridge as if heading to work. These sightings are fleeting, often vanishing the instant someone tries to approach. Witnesses describe a feeling of being momentarily connected to the past, a glimpse of history replayed in spectral form, yet always just out of reach. Paranormal investigators have documented the Trinity River's eerie reputation. EMF detectors sometimes spike without explanation, capturing unusual readings in abandoned mill sites and beneath bridges. Audio recordings occasionally reveal faint whispers, footsteps, or other unidentifiable sounds. Photographs taken in foggy conditions sometimes reveal orbs or misty shapes hovering above the water or near ruins. adding visual evidence to the long-standing tales of the river's hauntings. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the Trinity River continues to draw explorers, photographers, and paranormal enthusiasts. The combination of natural beauty, industrial decay, and ghostly legends makes it a unique location where the line between history and the supernatural blurs. Those who visit after dark find themselves immersed in a landscape that is at once familiar and otherworldly, where the sounds of flowing water mingle with echoes of the past, and shadows seem to take on lives of their own. For residents of Fort Worth, the Trinity River serves as a reminder that even in a modern city, the past is never truly gone. The spectral figures along the riverbanks, the ghostly lights above the water, and the unexplained noises under the bridges are whispers of a bygone era, lingering to remind the living of the river's storied and often tragic history. Walking along the Trinity River at night is to step into a space where time seems suspended, where the memories of those who lived and died near its waters remain ever present. The Pecos River, winding through the desolate landscapes west of Fort Stockton, Texas, carries a history steeped in tales of lawlessness, survival, and human tragedy. Once a lifeline for travelers and settlers navigating the harsh West Texas terrain, the river has witnessed countless stories of outlaws, bandits, and desperate pioneers. Today, the Pecos is serene in daylight, its waters reflecting the vast skies above. But after dark, the river seems to transform into a place where the past refuses to remain buried. Those who venture along its remote stretches speak of ghostly figures, inexplicable sounds, and a chilling sense that the land remembers every hardship that occurred along its banks. Campers and hikers along the Pecos River have long shared stories of strange occurrences. The bursts are often sharp and close, yet no one is ever seen. Some say these sounds are remnants of shootouts between outlaws and lawmen, the echoes of long-forgotten skirmishes that have seeped into the very soil. Witnesses describe the air growing heavy during these moments, as though the tension of those past encounters lingers in the darkness, waiting for someone to stumble upon it. Shadowy figures are another frequent phenomenon along this stretch of the Pecos. Campers recount seeing silhouettes moving along the riverbanks, often appearing to be men in 19th century attire, their hats low over their faces, and rifles or pistols in hand. These figures are rarely stationary. They pace or patrol as though on guard, and the moment a person approaches, they dissolve into the night, leaving behind only the sound of water lapping against rocks and a cold, unsettling breeze. Some have reported glimpses of groups of figures seemingly preparing for a standoff or crossing the river silently, their forms translucent yet vivid enough to elicit genuine fear. The remoteness of this area only adds to its eerie reputation. With little light pollution and sparse settlements, the night along the Pecos River can be absolute in its darkness. Campers often report feeling watched, even when alone, as if unseen eyes are tracking every movement. Cold spots appear suddenly along trails and riverbanks, and some have even felt the touch of unseen hands brushing their skin. Hikers report a growing unease when lingering too long near certain bends of the river, as though the ground itself carries the memory of danger and betrayal. Local legends speak of notorious outlaws who used the Pecos River as a hideout, escaping justice in the late 1800s. Many perished along its banks in gunfights, ambushes, or attempts to cross the river under duress. Paranormal enthusiasts suggest that the violent deaths of these men and the bloodshed that marked the river's history left an imprint on the landscape. Their restless spirits, unable to move on, are said to replay the events of those final, desperate moments, visible only to those wandering the river after sunset. Auditory phenomena along the Pecos are particularly chilling. Some campers have recorded inexplicable sounds, including the distant clatter of horse hooves, the twang of gunfire, and voices shouting in anger or fear. In some cases, the sounds are so realistic that individuals have called out, only to find themselves alone. Others have claimed to hear footsteps pacing back and forth along the river's edge or the metallic ring of spurs, suggesting the presence of cavalrymen or lawmen from a bygone era. The river itself seems to carry the weight of these tragedies. Fog often forms along the Pecos in the early morning and late evening, curling above the water in shapes that some interpret as human figures. Witnesses report seeing these fog-formed shapes moving slowly along the river, sometimes converging with shadowy silhouettes on the banks, creating an unsettling scene of spectral activity. It is as if the mists are replaying moments frozen in time, a ghostly theater performing for anyone brave or unlucky enough to witness it. Even during the day, the Pecos River retains a sense of unease. Certain areas, particularly near old crossings or abandoned settlements, evoke a feeling of being watched. Animals in the area sometimes react unusually to unseen presences, barking or fleeing in the absence of visible threats. Many local ranchers and travelers have learned to respect the river after dark, aware of the stories of those who dared to ignore its haunted reputation. Paranormal investigators have explored these stretches of the Pecos River, capturing audio anomalies, sudden temperature drops, and photographic evidence of orbs and shadowy figures. Their research suggests that the river acts as a nexus for residual energy, where the tragedies of outlaws, settlers, and lost travelers have fused into a spectral tapestry. Nighttime visitors often report the same sense of being on the edge of another world, where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, and history manifests in tangible, terrifying ways. For those who venture west of Fort Stockton, the Pecos River is more than a remote waterway. It is a place where the past flows alongside the present, where the cries of those who lived then died along its banks linger in the air. Shadowy figures, spectral gunfights, and unexplained sounds create a sense that the river remembers every hardship, every betrayal, and every desperate attempt at survival. Campers and travelers alike report that, after experiencing its haunted stretches, the Pecos River leaves a lingering impression, a combination of awe, fear, and an understanding that some places hold the weight of history in a way that cannot be ignored. The Brazos River in Fort Bend County, Texas, is a serene and winding waterway by day, its gentle currents reflecting the sprawling skies above. Yet beneath its calm surface and along its shaded banks lies a history shadowed by sorrow, struggle, and untold tragedy. For centuries, the river has witnessed the rise and fall of plantations, the labor of enslaved people, and the conflicts and cruelties that accompanied them. Even long after the plantations were abandoned, locals have whispered of ghostly apparitions and strange occurrences along the river's edge, where the weight of history seems to linger in the air. Stories of paranormal activity along the Brazos River in Fort Bend County have circulated for decades. Those who live near its banks often recount encounters with shadowy figures that appear and vanish without explanation. Some claim to have seen the silhouettes of plantation owners, standing rigidly near the river as if overseeing lands they no longer inhabit. More frequently, witnesses speak of ghostly figures of enslaved people, walking along the water or through the tall grass, their movements slow and deliberate, as though replaying moments of hardship and labor from centuries past. Campers and fishermen along the Brazos often describe a sense of unease that settles over the river at night. The once lively plantations are now long gone, yet the energy of the land remains. Cold spots seem to form suddenly along the banks, and the gentle rustling of the wind through the trees sometimes carries whispers of voices, words spoken in hurried tones or in languages no longer commonly heard. Those who hear these sounds report a mix of fear and sorrow, sensing that the river itself is saturated with memories of pain and endurance. At night, the river takes on a particularly spectral quality. Mist often rises from the water, curling into shapes that resemble human figures. Locals tell tales of seeing these fog-formed shapes walking along the banks, vanishing when approached. Some interpret these figures as spirits of those who worked the plantations, forever tied to the land where they suffered. Others believe they are the restless echoes of plantation owners, lingering out of pride or unresolved guilt, appearing to remind the living of the river's dark past. The Brazos River has also been a source of eerie auditory phenomena. Fishermen report hearing the sound of chains dragging across the soil, the distant creak of wagons, or the clatter of tools being used where no one is present. Some have recorded these noises on audio devices, capturing faint whispers and groans that defy explanation. Visitors often describe a sensation of being watched, even when they are alone, and many recount sudden chills, as though unseen presences are passing too close for comfort. One of the most unsettling tales involves the remains of old plantation structures that still line certain stretches of the river. At night, some have reported seeing lantern-like glows inside the ruins, with the faint outlines of people moving through empty rooms or along overgrown paths. These apparitions are described as faint, almost transparent, but detailed enough to recognize clothing and posture indicative of 18th or 19th century life. Observers say the figures sometimes seem to reenact daily tasks, tending gardens, carrying water, or moving goods until they disappear completely, leaving only the sound of the river as a reminder that history is still present. Many locals avoid wandering the Brazos River alone at night, particularly near areas where plantations once thrived. Tales of sudden apparitions, shadowy movements, and the sensation of being touched by unseen hands are common. Some visitors recount glimpsing groups of figures, enslaved workers and overseers alike, standing silently along the bank before dissolving into the darkness. Others report fleeting glimpses of lanterns bobbing along the water, drifting in ways that defy logic, as if carrying the spirits of the past along with them. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to the Brazos River in Fort Bend County. Using audio equipment, thermal cameras, and long-exposure photography, they have documented strange phenomena. Some cameras capture orbs of light hovering over the water or near the riverbank, while infrared footage shows shadowy shapes moving against the current of the land. Researchers suggest that the combination of tragic history, prolonged suffering, and the natural energy of the river may have created a unique environment for residual haunting, where echoes of past lives replay themselves for those who are perceptive enough, brave enough to witness them. Despite the fear these stories inspire, the river also holds a fascination for many. Its natural beauty, flowing waters, and quiet banks attract campers, kayakers, and photographers who are drawn to both the scenic and spectral aspects of the area. For them, the Brazos River is a place where history is alive, not only in books and records, but also in the lingering presence of those who walked its banks long ago. Each ripple of water and each gust of wind carries a story of hardship, resilience, and haunting memory. For those who wander the Brazos River at night, the experience is both unsettling and humbling. Shadowy figures may appear among the trees. Ghostly lights may dance on the water, and unexplained sounds may echo across the river. These phenomena serve as reminders that the land remembers its past, that the spirits of both the oppressed and the powerful continue to inhabit the spaces they once knew, and that the river itself is a living testament to the human stories etched into its banks. The Nueces River, winding its way through southern Texas toward Corpus Christi, is a lifeline of the region, its waters sustaining both wildlife and human settlements for centuries. Yet beneath the calm surface and along its lush banks, the river holds a darker legacy, one woven from the lives of early settlers, Native American tribes, and countless untold tragedies. Those who venture onto the river at night, or even along its quiet banks during dusk, often report a sense of unease, a whisper of the past brushing against the present. Locals and frequent visitors tell of unexplained phenomena that linger along the Nueces River. Kayakers drifting silently on the water under moonlit skies describe sudden cold spots that envelop them without warning. One moment the air is warm and calm, and the next, icy chills prick their skin, as though unseen eyes are observing their passage. Some have felt an inexplicable weight pressing upon their shoulders or heard whispers carried on the river breeze, uttered in languages that seem ancient and foreign. The murmurs are fleeting, impossible to pin down, yet they leave a deep impression of presence, as if the river itself remembers the lives it has carried through history. Fishermen along the Nueces often recount shadowy figures gliding across the water's surface. These silhouettes appear human but are fleeting, dissolving into mist or vanishing as soon as they are noticed. Many claim that the figures resemble early settlers, clad in clothing from the 18th or 19th centuries, standing motionless at the river's edge before disappearing. Others speak of translucent shapes moving like canoeists or hunters, their actions repetitive, almost like echoes of daily life trapped in the river's memory. There is a haunting sadness to these sightings, as though the spirits are replaying moments they cannot leave behind. The river's history is deeply entwined with both settlement and displacement. Native American tribes, including the Karankawa and Coawiltican peoples, once thrived along its banks, hunting and fishing, and maintaining a deep spiritual connection to the land. Later, European settlers arrived, establishing homesteads and farms that altered the landscape and disrupted the lives of the original inhabitants. Stories handed down through generations suggest that these disruptions left an imprint on the land itself, a lingering energy that manifests in spectral forms and unexplained sounds along the river. Some of the most chilling reports come from solitary night travelers. Kayakers describe drifting into patches of fog that appear suddenly on the water, dense and cold, obscuring visibility. Within these mists, faint cries or whispered names are said to echo, sometimes in unrecognizable dialects. Campers along the river's banks have awakened to the sound of footsteps approaching their tents, only to find nothing there. Others have glimpsed lights hovering above the water, unconnected to any boat or human activity, as though the river is trying to signal the presence of unseen observers. Those who live near the Nueces River often speak of an eerie feeling that pervades the area after dark. Dogs grow restless, barking at shadows invisible to their owners. In the early morning, mist rising from the water sometimes forms shapes that resemble human figures, walking along the banks before evaporating in the rising sun. Visitors report a sense of being watched, a pressure in the air that cannot be explained by natural causes. Even experienced guides admit to feeling apprehensive when navigating certain stretches alone, especially in areas near old settlements or isolated bends in the river. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to the Nueces River for decades. Orbs of light hovering above the water, sudden drops in temperature, and faint shadowy movements are commonly reported. Audio recordings sometimes capture whispers or murmurs that cannot be attributed to wind or wildlife, with some investigators interpreting these sounds as remnants of conversations from centuries past. These findings support the belief that the river retains an energy from the lives and events that have unfolded along its course. The spectral activity along the Nueces River is not limited to isolated individuals. Local legends tell of groups of apparitions appearing together, often reenacting scenes from the past. Some describe Native American figures performing ceremonial movements along the banks, their presence fleeting yet undeniable. Others recount sightings of early settlers and their families, seemingly unaware of the passage of time, walking along the river, tending to invisible livestock, or carrying tools and goods from their era. These echoes of history create a sense that the river is alive with memories, a living archive of both hardship and resilience. Despite the eerie reputation, the Nueces River continues to attract those drawn to both its natural beauty and its haunted mystique. Anglers, kayakers, and campers are captivated by the serenity of the water and the surrounding landscape, but many take precautions after hearing the stories. Locals often advise visitors to respect the river and its history, warning that those who mock or provoke the spirits may encounter more than just a shadow or a whisper. For those willing to tread carefully, the river offers a rare glimpse into the past, a connection to lives and experiences that have long since ended, yet refuse to be forgotten. The Nueces River, in the Corpus Christi area, is a place where the boundary between past and present feels thin. Its waters have carried the hopes and hardships of Native Americans, settlers, and generations of families, leaving behind traces that linger in the mist and shadows. Ghostly figures, flitting whispers, and sudden cold spots remind those who visit that the river is more than a natural landmark. It's a repository of memory, a vessel of history, and a haunting presence that continues to flow through the land. Texas rivers are more than sources of life and beauty. They are repositories of memory, where tragedy and history blend with the unknown. From the Rio Grande to the Nueces, from the remote Pecos River to the bustling stretches of the Trinity, These waterways carry more than water. They carry echoes of lives long gone, whispers of souls still searching, and the chilling presence of spirits who refuse to leave. As you venture along these haunted rivers, whether for exploration or thrill-seeking, remember that the stories are as real as the waters that flow. The experiences of locals, visitors, and investigators all paint a picture of Texas as a land where history and the supernatural intertwine. The next time you find yourself walking along a riverbank or paddling through misty waters in Texas, keep your senses alert. You may just feel the presence of the spirits who still call these rivers home. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Texas' most haunted rivers. If you've enjoyed exploring these chilling tales and wish to hear more about haunted places across the United States, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Each river, each story, is a reminder that sometimes the past never truly fades, and in Texas, even the calmest waters can hide restless spirits.